Across the ancient world, buried beneath layers of dust and silence, lie secrets that defy explanation. Monuments built with impossible precision, artifacts that seem to whisper of technologies and knowledge lost to history. Civilizations that rose, flourished, and vanished, leaving behind only questions carved in stone. Archaeologists have spent centuries unearthing the past. Yet some discoveries refuse to fit neatly into what we think we know. A metal object sealed inside rock millions of years too old. A city aligned perfectly with the stars, long before astronomy was ever recorded. Patterns, symbols, and ruins that suggest someone or something may have walked this earth long before us. Each clue uncovered brings us closer to the truth, and yet, somehow, deeper into the unknown. Are these the remnants of forgotten civilizations? Accidents of nature? Or evidence of a history far stranger than we dare to imagine? So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the world's most bizarre and unexplained archaeological mysteries, still unsolved to this day. Beneath the rolling hills of central Italy, hidden among the roots of cypress trees and fields of golden grain, lies a civilization that time almost forgot. Long before the rise of Rome, before Caesar, before empire, there were the Etruscans, a people both known and unknown, their language only partially deciphered, their origins still debated, their beliefs cloaked in the silence of the grave. What they left behind are tombs, thousands of them, carved deep into the rock, scattered across the landscape like a network of whispers from another age. From the outside, many appear simple, weathered mounds, stone doors half buried, their entrances guarded by centuries of earth and ivy. But step inside, and the air changes. Inside these tombs, the walls come alive. Frescoes, painted over 2.5 millennia ago, still blaze with color. Reds, ochres, deep blues. Scenes of banquets, dancers, musicians playing lyres and flutes. Death, to the Etruscans, was not an end, but a continuation. A passage to another realm that mirrored the joy and complexity of life. The tomb of the leopards, the tomb of the augurs, the tomb of the bulls. Each one tells a story. And yet, together, they leave us with more questions than answers. Who were these people, whose art rivaled the Greeks, whose engineering influenced the Romans, and whose writing, though tantalizingly close, remains beyond full translation? Archaeologists have uncovered thousands of artifacts from these tombs. Bronze mirrors engraved with gods and spirits, intricately wrought jewelry, urns shaped like human heads. The craftsmanship speaks of sophistication, of wealth, of a spiritual world that bridged the seen and unseen. But the deeper we look, the stranger it becomes. Some tombs, like those at Cerveteri and Tarquinia, are vast, cities of the dead, complete with roads, chambers, and carefully aligned entrances. The layouts often mirror celestial patterns, leading some researchers to wonder whether the Etruscans mapped their necropolises according to the movements of the stars. Others have noted uncanny architectural parallels between Etruscan tombs and early structures found in distant regions, from the Aegean to Anatolia, suggesting migrations, or perhaps an exchange of ideas that history has forgotten. The mystery deepens when we look at the Etruscan language itself. Unlike Latin or Greek, it has no clear relatives among the tongues of the ancient Mediterranean. Inscriptions found in tombs and on funerary urns offer fragments of meaning, but no complete story. We can recognize names, family lineages, rituals, but not the beliefs that gave them shape. Where did this language come from? And why did it vanish so completely? Some scholars propose that the Etruscans were descendants of a local Italic culture, evolved naturally from Bronze Age roots. Others point to the eastern Mediterranean, to Lydia, in what is now Turkey, suggesting a people who sailed westward across the sea, bringing with them a forgotten tongue and a new way of life. Yet the archaeological evidence remains inconclusive. Their DNA, too, tells a mixed story, part native, part foreign. And then there are the symbols. In some tombs, recurring motifs appear. Winged figures that seem to guide souls to the afterlife, serpentine creatures, and strange geometric forms whose meanings are lost to us. A few patterns echo those found in Egypt or Mesopotamia, far older civilizations that the Etruscans could scarcely have encountered directly. Coincidence, or cultural memory stretching further back than our history's record? The tombs themselves hold architectural puzzles. The precision of certain carvings, the near-perfect alignment of burial chambers, and the presence of advanced drainage systems all suggest a knowledge of engineering that surpassed what was typical for the time. Some chambers are sealed with monolithic stone doors weighing tons, fitted so exactly they still pivot on ancient hinges. How and why such complexity for the dead? Over the years, as excavation techniques improved, archaeologists have found anomalies, objects that don't quite belong. Bronze tools whose metallurgy seems unusually refined. Carvings that resemble constellations no longer visible from this latitude. Even an occasional artifact whose dating appears at odds with the established timeline. Most are dismissed as errors, misinterpretations, or coincidences, but a lingering sense of unease remains. What if our understanding of the Etruscans is still only a fragment of a much greater story? Their influence is undeniable. The Romans borrowed heavily from Etruscan religion, art, and architecture. The very foundations of Roman civilization were laid upon Etruscan soil. And yet, by the 1st century BCE, the Etruscans had all but disappeared. Their cities absorbed, their gods renamed, their language silenced. Only the tombs endure, vast, silent, and strangely timeless. Standing in one of these chambers, surrounded by paintings of eternal feasts and watchful spirits, you can almost feel the presence of those who built them. The flicker of torchlight on ancient pigments brings the past perilously close. It's as if the Etruscans still linger here, waiting to tell their story. If only we could understand their words. Perhaps one day a single discovery, a tablet, a translation, a new site untouched by looters or time, will unlock the mystery. Until then, the Etruscan tombs remain a threshold between history and myth, between what we know and what we still long to understand. What secrets lie beyond these painted walls? What memories carved into stone still watch us from the dark? The answer, for now, sleeps beneath the earth, waiting. As the dust of forgotten civilizations settles, and the echoes of the Etruscans fade into silence, we turn our gaze from the tombs of the earth to the depths of the sea, where another mystery, cold and corroded by time, has waited more than 2,000 years to be understood. In 1900, off the coast of the small Greek island of Antikythera, a group of sponge divers sought shelter from a storm. When they descended into the turquoise depths, they stumbled upon the wreck of an ancient ship. Scattered across the seabed were bronze statues, amphorae, fragments of marble, treasures from a world long gone. But among them lay something far stranger, a lump of corroded metal, fused with rock, small enough to hold in one's hands, yet unlike anything anyone had ever seen. At first glance, it was thought to be a mass of gears, perhaps the remnants of a simple mechanism or clock. But as the years passed and the corrosion was carefully removed, a shocking truth emerged. This was no ordinary artifact. Hidden within that compact fragment was a complex system of precisely cut bronze gears, axles, and inscriptions, an ancient machine of astonishing sophistication. Today, we call it the Antikythera Mechanism. Dated to around 100 BCE, this device predates any known mechanical clock by more than a millennium. Its intricate system of gears, over 30 in total, was capable of predicting celestial movements, the phases of the moon, the positions of planets, even solar and lunar eclipses. In essence, it was an ancient analog computer designed to model the heavens with mathematical precision. How, then, could such technology exist in the ancient world? How could Greek craftsmen, working with bronze tools and simple instruments, have achieved this level of mechanical mastery? Scholars have long debated its origins. Some attribute it to the school of Hipparchus, the great astronomer of Rhodes, whose observations of the stars might have inspired such a creation. Others suggest a link to Archimedes, whose genius for mechanics and mathematics was legendary. But no texts from antiquity ever mention such a device. It appears suddenly in history, fully formed, then vanishes just as quickly. The gears themselves are cut with precision so fine that modern engineers once doubted they could have been made without advanced machinery. The arrangement of the teeth, the ratios of the gear trains, the compact layering, all suggest not a crude experiment, but a mature technology, one refined through trial, error, and understanding. Yet no other artifact of comparable design has ever been found. Was the Antikythera Mechanism a unique masterpiece built by one exceptional mind? Or was it the last surviving trace of a lost tradition, an ancient science that history has erased? Its purpose, too, continues to spark debate. Some call it a calendrical device, a tool for tracking festivals and agricultural cycles. Others see it as a teaching instrument, built to demonstrate the harmony of the cosmos. And still others believe it may have had a deeper, almost philosophical function, a mechanical expression of the belief that the universe itself moves according to order and design. Advanced imaging techniques, including X-ray tomography, have revealed inscriptions hidden within the corroded fragments, tiny Greek letters etched along the dials, describing planetary movements and cycles. These details confirm its astronomical intent, but they also reveal something more, a poetic reverence for time itself. The mechanism doesn't just calculate, it embodies the rhythm of the heavens, as though its maker sought to capture eternity in bronze. And yet, the mystery deepens. The craftsmanship suggests knowledge not seen again until the rise of complex clockwork in medieval Europe more than 1,000 years later. Where did this knowledge go? How could a civilization capable of creating such a device simply forget it? Some theorists have suggested that the Antikythera Mechanism may not have been alone, that other machines, perhaps more advanced, once existed and were lost in shipwrecks, fires, or the collapse of ancient societies. Others wonder whether the technology was deliberately concealed, kept within small circles of scholars or priests who guarded its secrets. A few even speculate that the mechanism represents knowledge inherited from an older, unknown source, a civilization predating Greece itself. Still, the simplest mystery remains the most profound. Who built it, and for whom? Was it commissioned by a philosopher seeking to understand the cosmos, a navigator calculating the heavens for his journeys, or a ruler wishing to hold, quite literally, the workings of the universe in his hand? Each theory opens another door, yet none lead to certainty. The ship that carried the mechanism sank sometime in the 1st century BCE, taking with it whatever context might have explained its purpose. The fragments we have, barely 1/3 of the original device, are all that remain. Every discovery raises more questions. What did the missing parts do? What planets did it track? How far did its maker's understanding truly reach? Standing before it today, displayed under glass in the National Archaeological Museum of Athens, the Antikythera Mechanism is both humbling and haunting. Its gears no longer turn, yet their silent precision still speaks of a mind, or perhaps an era, far more advanced than we imagined. It is a reminder that human history may not be a straight ascent from ignorance to knowledge, but a series of peaks and valleys, moments of brilliance that flare briefly, then vanish into darkness. Could it be that the Antikythera Mechanism was one such spark, a glimpse of genius that time almost erased? Or is it simply the lone survivor of a world whose science and art were far more intertwined than we yet understand? Whatever the truth, it remains one of the most extraordinary and unexplained relics ever found beneath the sea. A bridge between the mechanical and the divine, between reason and wonder. And as we move forward, deeper into the labyrinth of lost knowledge and ancient enigmas, one question endures. How much of our past still lies hidden, waiting, like the Antikythera Mechanism, to be rediscovered by accident and to remind us just how much we've forgotten? Flowing from the silent precision of the Antikythera Mechanism, where human ingenuity sought to capture the movements of the heavens, we now descend from the cosmic into the subterranean. Beneath the sunlit hills of Malta lies another enigma, an underground labyrinth of stone, carved not for the living, but for those who had already passed into a world we can only imagine. The Hypogeum of Hal Saflieni is a subterranean temple, a vast network of chambers, corridors, and caverns hewn from solid limestone. Its entrance is unassuming, hidden within the contours of a modest urban landscape in Paola. But step inside, and the world changes. The air is cool, damp, and heavy with the scent of ancient stone. Light, filtered through narrow shafts from above, brushes across walls carved with precision, creating shadows that shift like living things. Archaeologists date the Hypogeum to around 4000 to 2500 BCE, placing it among the oldest freestanding underground structures in the world. Over 3 levels, extending more than 10 meters beneath the surface, the Hypogeum stretches like a living organism, its corridors winding and descending in ways that feel deliberate, almost ritualistic. Some chambers are vast, capable of holding hundreds of individuals, while others are intimate, designed for solitary reflection, or perhaps something else entirely. What strikes visitors immediately is the acoustic design. In the so-called oracle room, a whisper, a note, or a chant resonates throughout the chamber, amplifying sound in a manner that is astonishing, even by modern standards. How and why did these prehistoric builders achieve such acoustic mastery? Was it intended to elevate ritual, to communicate with the spirits of the dead, or to manipulate perception in ways we still cannot fully understand? Burials within the Hypogeum reveal a culture deeply engaged with death, yet surprisingly sophisticated in both practice and artistry. Human bones, carefully arranged, were often painted with red ochre, a symbolic gesture whose meaning remains debated. Sculpted figures, miniature representations of the human form, hint at a society attuned to symbolism, identity, and perhaps belief in an afterlife. The layers of interment suggest that the Hypogeum was used continuously for centuries, yet its rituals remain opaque to us. The construction itself invites awe and speculation. Carving with only stone tools, the builders created chambers with smooth walls, precise angles, and staircases that descend with unerring symmetry. The sheer effort required to excavate 3 levels of limestone without metal tools suggests a culture of extraordinary organization, knowledge, and determination. Some have argued that the Hypogeum's alignment and design may correlate with celestial patterns, echoing a deep, perhaps spiritual understanding of the cosmos, an understanding that connects intriguingly to other ancient civilizations, yet emerges here in complete isolation. Equally puzzling are the symbolic artifacts found within. Stylized figurines, some called sleeping ladies, hint at ritual or meditation, yet no definitive explanation exists. Were these figures offerings, representations of the deceased, or talismans for protection? Some researchers propose that the Hypogeum functioned not just as a burial site, but as a sacred space for initiation, a place where the living might encounter the divine or glimpse the afterlife. But the specifics are lost, obscured by millennia of silence. Even the very discovery of the Hypogeum in 1902 carries its own shadow of mystery. Unearthed accidentally during construction, it had lain undisturbed for thousands of years, its existence hidden beneath layers of soil and history. Why, for a structure so massive and sophisticated, did knowledge of it disappear entirely? What social, cultural, or environmental forces could have caused a society capable of such monumental underground engineering to vanish, leaving the Hypogeum behind as a solitary testament to their ingenuity? Some theorists suggest connections to other megalithic cultures across the Mediterranean. Malta's above-ground temples like Hagarchim and Menajdra share architectural motifs, implying a continuum of ritual and knowledge. Others speculate that the Hypogeum represents something even stranger, a proto-scientific understanding of acoustics, human psychology, or metaphysical phenomena. Was it merely a tomb, or a place designed to influence consciousness, to bridge the gap between the living and the dead, between the material and the unseen? Every stone seems to ask questions. The walls, polished to a smooth finish, reflect both light and shadow, creating a liminal space where the ordinary rules of perception feel suspended. The corridors echo with a resonance that seems intentional, as if the builders understood not just the physical dimensions of space, but the emotional and spiritual impact of architecture itself. And yet, despite extensive study, much about the Hypogeum remains unexplained. The people who built it left no written records. Their language, if they had one, is lost. Their rituals are known only through inference, and even the exact purpose of many chambers continues to elude scholars. Modern techniques, 3D scanning, acoustic analysis, and forensic archaeology reveal astonishing details, but raise new questions at every turn. Could the Hypogeum of Hal Saflieni represent the culmination of prehistoric human achievement? A sacred space where death and life, matter and spirit, intersected in ways we can scarcely comprehend? Or is it only a fragment of a broader lost world, one whose full scale and meaning will remain hidden beneath the soil forever? As we linger in the quiet of its stone corridors, imagining the hands that carved, polished, and painted these walls, one cannot help but feel the presence of minds long gone. Their knowledge, their beliefs, their intentions, they echo faintly, as if inviting us to listen, to wonder, and to confront the persistent question that the Hypogeum poses to all who enter. How much of human history, and the mysteries it contains, is still buried just beneath our feet waiting for discovery? Flowing from the hidden depths of the Hypogeum of Hal Saflieni, where the whispers of ancient ritual linger in carved stone and shadow, our journey now moves from the subterranean to the written, a fragile fragment of papyrus that hints at a world far beyond the understanding of its own time. A document so enigmatic, so controversial, that it has fascinated scholars, historians, and mystery seekers alike for decades. The Tulli Papyrus. Unlike the monumental tombs of Malta or the precise gears of the Antikythera Mechanism, the Tulli Papyrus is small, fragile, and elusive. It is said to have originated in the archives of the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, discovered by an Italian Egyptologist named Alberto Tulli in the early 20th century. What Tulli reportedly found was a handwritten copy of an older Egyptian scroll, an official record of events from the reign of Pharaoh Thutmose III, around 1480 BCE. But what makes this papyrus remarkable is not its depiction of battles or taxes, but a description that, if taken at face value, defies conventional interpretation. According to translations and interpretations that circulated after Tulli's death, the papyrus records the appearance of fiery discs or circles of fire in the sky, hovering over the city of Memphis. These objects are described as moving with incredible speed, shining with a brilliance that lit up the night, and behaving in ways that did not resemble any known celestial or atmospheric phenomenon. The scribes of the time, accustomed to recording the motions of stars, planets, and comets, seemed both awed and alarmed by the event, noting that it made no sound, and pursued one another. The descriptions raise immediate questions. Could the Egyptians, meticulous observers of the sky and masters of astronomy, have mistaken an unusual natural phenomenon for something supernatural? Or is it possible that they were witnessing something entirely unexplainable, an event that challenged the very limits of contemporary understanding? The papyrus itself is missing, destroyed, or possibly lost. All that remains are the transcriptions and notes made by Tulli and subsequent researchers. This absence has fueled debate and speculation. Without the original artifact, questions of authenticity, translation accuracy, and context dominate the discussion. Some Egyptologists dismiss the account entirely, suggesting that it was either a misinterpretation, a copyist error, or even a modern hoax. Yet others argue that the precision of the hieroglyphs and the careful recording of dates, lunar positions, and pharaohal regnal years give the text a credibility that cannot be easily ignored. Interpretations of the phenomenon vary widely. Some propose natural explanations, meteor showers, atmospheric optical effects, or rare astronomical alignments. Could the scribes have been recording an extraordinary meteorological event, exaggerated over generations? Others, drawn by the vividness of the description, suggest that the Tulli Papyrus might be evidence of early observations of unidentified flying objects, an idea that, though controversial, cannot be entirely dismissed given the unusual specificity of the text. There are peculiar details that make the account harder to categorize. The objects described do not behave like falling stars, nor do they follow predictable planetary paths. The papyrus notes formations that came to rest and seemed to interact with one another, as if guided by intent or purpose. For a civilization so deeply connected to the heavens, whose temples, calendars, and rituals were aligned with cosmic order, the observation must have been profoundly disturbing. The scribe's decision to document it at all suggests its significance, yet they lack a framework to explain it, a silence between observation and understanding that echoes across millennia. The story of the Tulli Papyrus also intertwines with the human fascination with what lies beyond our comprehension. Scholars and enthusiasts have pored over Tulli's notes, comparing them to other Egyptian records, ancient folklore, and archaeological findings. Some draw parallels with the depictions of skyships in Mesopotamian texts, or celestial phenomena recorded by other ancient civilizations. Others note that, while unusual, the event does not appear to have directly influenced Egyptian architecture or religion. There is no monument, no ritual that explicitly commemorates it, leaving its cultural impact mysterious as well. A further layer of intrigue lies in the text's provenance. Why did Tulli not publish his findings formally? Why was the original papyrus allegedly inaccessible, relegated to a drawer in Cairo? Some suggest bureaucratic oversight, others hint at secrecy, as though the ancient scribes themselves, or later guardians of the document, understood that the information it contained was extraordinary and potentially destabilizing to the accepted narrative of history. As we consider the Tulli Papyrus alongside other mysteries, the Antikythera Mechanism, the Etruscan Tombs, the Hypogeum, we are confronted with a pattern. Fragments of knowledge, lost or partially preserved, hinting at worlds more complex than our textbooks convey. The papyrus is less a complete story and more a question suspended in time, Was it a record of extraterrestrial visitation, a natural phenomenon misunderstood, or simply a story lost in translation? Perhaps the truth is less sensational, yet no less profound, that even in one of the most meticulously documented civilizations of antiquity, there exist events that elude explanation. The mystery also raises deeper philosophical considerations. What does it mean that our ancestors, in a society so devoted to observation, recorded something so puzzling without explanation? And what does it tell us about the limits of historical knowledge, that a single fragment, or even a transcription of a fragment, can challenge centuries of interpretation and understanding? For all the debates, skepticism, and theories, the Tulli Papyrus remains a symbol of the unknown, fragile, tantalizing, and ever elusive. It reminds us that the past is not a fixed narrative, but a landscape filled with shadows and half-remembered events, where even the most meticulous record-keepers encounter phenomena beyond comprehension. And so, as we reflect on this ancient document, its cryptic descriptions, and the questions it raises, we are left with a quiet, persistent wonder. What other observations, other phenomena, have been recorded and lost, slipping through history like grains of sand? What truths remain hidden in the archives of civilizations long vanished, waiting for the eyes of the present to glimpse them, if only briefly? The Tulli Papyrus does not give answers. It gives us the thrill and the chill of the unknowable. And perhaps, in that very silence, it invites us to consider that the history of our world is far richer, stranger, and more mysterious than we have yet imagined. Flowing from the enigmatic whispers of the Tulli Papyrus, where scribes recorded celestial phenomena that continue to defy interpretation, we now turn our attention to a text of far greater antiquity and ambition, a record that stretches the very bounds of time as we understand it. Buried in the fertile soil of ancient Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, lies a document that challenges conventional history itself: the Sumerian King List. The King List is inscribed on clay tablets, fragile and yet enduring, in the angular wedge-shaped script of cuneiform. These tablets, excavated across sites such as Nippur, and Larsa, catalog the rulers of Sumer in a lineage that stretches back thousands of years, blending history, legend, and myth. At first glance, it reads as a meticulous chronological record, the names of kings, the cities over which they ruled, and the lengths of their reigns. But a closer examination reveals something extraordinary. Some reigns are said to last tens of thousands of years, others tens of thousands more, before the flood that supposedly reshaped the world. The numbers themselves are staggering. Alulim, the first king of Eridu, is recorded as reigning for 28,800 years. Enmenluana ruled for 43,200. These durations defy the very laws of biology and history, yet the names and cities match archaeological and historical evidence. The early sections of the list blend seamlessly into a more historically plausible record, eventually reaching kings whose reigns align with documented events in Sumerian, Akkadian, and Babylonian history. This juxtaposition of the fantastical and the factual has puzzled scholars for centuries. One explanation offered by historians is symbolic. The extreme reigns may represent dynasties or epochs rather than individual rulers, a literary device intended to confer grandeur or divine sanction. Others suggest numerological significance, rooted in Sumerian cosmology, where time was cyclical and divine. The flood, a pivotal event recorded on the tablets, marks the transition between the mythic antediluvian rulers and those whose reigns fall into the human scale, a boundary between legend and history. Yet, the list raises questions that reach beyond standard interpretation. Why, for instance, would multiple tablets discovered in different cities present versions of the king list that are largely consistent, even when separated by centuries? How did these early scribes, without modern tools or widespread communication, preserve names and reigns across such vast spans of time? The accuracy in the latter sections, aligned with archaeological evidence, suggests that the Sumerians had a far deeper understanding of chronology than we often credit them with. The Sumerian king list also hints at a worldview in which rulers were chosen by the gods, a belief that intertwines political authority with the divine. Cities rise and fall under the mandate of heaven. Kings are not merely human but intermediaries of cosmic order. This fusion of theology and governance may account for the seemingly impossible reigns. Perhaps they were meant to demonstrate the timelessness of divine authority rather than record literal lifespans. Yet one cannot ignore the tantalizing possibility that these extraordinary numbers preserve memories of something real, obscured by layers of myth and symbolism. Some researchers have drawn connections between the Sumerian king list and later texts, such as the biblical account of antediluvian patriarchs or the flood narratives in Mesopotamian epics. Could there have been a shared memory of a cataclysmic event, encoded in different cultural forms across millennia? Or is it purely coincidental, a convergence of mythic imagination? The list itself offers no answers, only the names and reigns left to echo through time like distant, resonant notes. The physical tablets, despite their fragility, convey an aura of authority. Each wedge mark pressed into clay carries weight, not just in ink or pigment, but in the intent of those who carved them. These were not casual records. They were artifacts meant to endure, to preserve memory across generations, and to assert the legitimacy of power. The very act of writing a king list is an act of claiming history, yet the content challenges the very nature of what history can be. Intriguingly, the king list also presents gaps and anomalies. Certain reigns are omitted in some versions or recorded with alternate lengths. Some cities appear more than once, with kings of overlapping names and uncertain sequences. These discrepancies raise questions about the transmission of knowledge in early civilizations. Was there an intention to obscure certain rulers, or did these variations arise simply from the fragility of human memory over centuries? Each difference becomes a subtle reminder that history, even when written, is never entirely fixed. Modern archaeologists and historians continue to study the king list, using it to cross-reference other findings, inscriptions, economic records, royal archives. But the most extraordinary sections remain unexplained. The enormous reigns, the divine endorsements, the precise sequence of cities, all suggest a worldview radically different from our own, one in which time, divinity, and human governance intertwine in ways that challenge contemporary logic. Perhaps the greatest mystery of the Sumerian king list is not the incredible numbers or the names themselves, but what they imply about human memory, history, and the recording of events. Could it be that the ancient Sumerians preserved in myth what had once been literal truth, an understanding of history and power that stretched far beyond what we consider possible? Or are we witnessing a profound literary and religious imagination, one that sought to bridge the mortal and divine through the measure of years? As we study these clay tablets, the faint impressions of wedge-shaped writing pressed millennia ago, we confront a reality both humbling and disorienting, that the earliest civilizations, those we often consider primitive, possessed a conception of time, authority, and cosmic order that still challenges our understanding. The Sumerian king list does not offer certainty. It offers wonder, a silent invitation to consider the possibilities buried within human memory and the layers of history we have yet to fully uncover. And so, as we trace the succession of kings across unimaginable spans of time, we are left with a question that endures. What truths, what fragments of knowledge lie hidden within these ancient records, remnants of a world both familiar and alien, waiting for us to decipher their meaning? The King List, in all its mystery, reminds us that the past is not simply behind us. It is a vast landscape of enigmas, some recorded in stone and clay, others lost to time, all waiting for the curious eye to notice them. Flowing from the ancient record of Sumerian kings and the tantalizing glimpses of human understanding preserved in clay, we now turn to a landscape where history and geography intersect in ways that challenge our perception of the past. In the rolling hills near the town of Visoko, Bosnia, rise formations that have captivated researchers, locals, and explorers alike, structures that some claim may be the remnants of a civilization long lost to time, the Bosnian Pyramids. From a distance, the largest formation, known as Visočica Hill, or the Pyramid of the Sun, rises sharply against the horizon. Its shape is strikingly geometric, symmetrical sides, a pointed apex, and terraces that suggest intentional design. On a sunny afternoon, the contours catch the light in such a way that the hill appears sculpted rather than formed, its edges unusually straight and precise for a natural hill. Surrounding it are additional formations, dubbed the Pyramid of the Moon, the Pyramid of the Dragon, and the Temple of Love, each exhibiting similarly regular slopes and alignments that draw the eye and invite speculation. The mainstream view among geologists has long been that these are natural hills, products of erosion and tectonic activity, their angularity the result of the underlying bedrock's stratification. Yet proponents of the archaeological interpretation, led by Dr. Samir Osmanagic since 2005, argue that these formations are the work of an ancient, sophisticated culture, dating back as much as 12,000 years, well before any known pyramid-building civilizations. Excavations have revealed stone blocks, tunnel networks, and chambers with carefully fitted stone surfaces, lending a tantalizing sense of human agency to the formations. The tunnels beneath the hills, often damp and echoing, are particularly intriguing. They wind through the bedrock in a labyrinthine pattern, with walls composed of precisely cut stones, stacked without mortar. In some sections, the blocks emit measurable negative ions and maintain stable temperatures regardless of outside conditions, a feature that has prompted speculation about potential energy or acoustic properties. Were these tunnels intended for burial, ritual, or something entirely unknown? And if they were indeed constructed, how did a prehistoric culture achieve such engineering precision with the tools available at the time? Carbon dating of organic material found within the tunnels suggests human activity thousands of years ago, though the exact purpose of the site remains ambiguous. Some excavated artifacts, including pottery shards and tools, hint at prolonged habitation or ceremonial use. Others suggest symbolic or astronomical significance. The pyramids appear to align with cardinal points, and some researchers note alignments with solstices, raising questions about whether the builders were tracking celestial events with intention and knowledge. Critics caution against overstating the evidence, pointing to geological explanations, layers of sandstone and conglomerate that naturally form angular ridges, and erosion patterns that can mimic the appearance of terraces. Yet the juxtaposition of tunnels, man-made-looking blocks, and the unusually regular geometry of the hills continues to challenge consensus. Even if human intervention were minor, it is remarkable that these formations would so closely mirror pyramid structures found in Egypt and Mesoamerica, thousands of years and kilometers away. The scale of the site amplifies the mystery. The Pyramid of the Sun alone stretches over 220 meters at its base, larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza, and rises more than 200 meters above the surrounding terrain. The size suggests intentionality, ambition, and knowledge of large-scale construction. Could a prehistoric culture in this region have possessed not only the vision but also the organizational capacity to move massive stone blocks and create these forms? Or is the apparent design a remarkable coincidence, a natural formation interpreted through the lens of modern expectations? Beyond the question of construction lies the deeper enigma of purpose. If these were indeed pyramids, what function might they have served? Burial? Worship? Astronomical observation? Some suggest that the tunnels may have been used for energy generation or healing rituals, theories inspired by the ionization and acoustic properties measured in certain chambers. Others propose that the site could represent an advanced, lost civilization, one whose traces have been mostly erased by time, but whose monumental ambition survived in stone. The debate over the Bosnian Pyramids also touches on the broader human impulse to seek meaning in the landscape. Across cultures, geometric shapes and monumental constructions often convey spiritual, religious, or astronomical knowledge. Could the Bosnian hills represent an independent emergence of this same impulse? A culture striving to understand and influence the world through form and structure? Or are we, perhaps, projecting our desire for patterns onto a natural landscape that coincidentally inspires awe? Excavations continue, drawing archaeologists, geologists, and enthusiasts from around the world. Each discovery deepens the enigma. Tunnels that continue beyond explored passages, stone blocks with unusual hardness, and traces of ancient construction that defy easy categorization. Every artifact and measurement prompts new questions, highlighting both the ambition and the limitations of human understanding when confronted with evidence so tantalizing and fragmentary. Standing before the Wysoka Hill, whether one sees a natural formation or the remnants of a forgotten civilization, it is impossible to deny the sense of wonder. The sharp edges, the terraces, the hidden corridors, all suggest stories lost to time, civilizations that left traces just beyond our comprehension. And as we trace the contours of these hills, descend into their tunnels, and ponder the intentions of those who may have shaped them, we are reminded that the past is far more intricate and perhaps far stranger than we often imagine. Could it be that, like the Sumerian king list or the Antikythera Mechanism, the Bosnian Pyramids are fragments of a human story far older and more sophisticated than mainstream history acknowledges? Or are they a convergence of nature's geometry and human imagination, prompting questions we are not yet equipped to answer? Whatever the truth, the Bosnian Pyramids remain a silent enigma, a landscape that challenges what we think we know and invites us to wonder, what other extraordinary traces of ancient ambition, lost knowledge, or unexplained construction still lie hidden beneath the hills of our world, waiting to be rediscovered? Flowing from the mysterious hills of Bosnia, where the question of natural formation and human design blurs, we now journey to the windswept plains of Brittany, France, where another enigma stretches across the landscape, an expanse of stone whose origin, purpose, and meaning have confounded observers for centuries: the Megaliths of Carnac. In the quiet mornings, when mist hangs low over the Breton countryside, the megaliths emerge like sentinels from the earth. Thousands of stones, some simple, others shaped with surprising precision, rise from the soil in long, deliberate alignments, extending for more than 4 kilometers across the plains. From a distance, the rows appear as faint lines etched into the horizon. Close up, the enormity of the stones, their height, weight, and sheer number, is breathtaking. Some stand solitary, while others cluster in patterns that suggest purpose and planning far beyond mere chance. Dating these structures has proven challenging, but archaeologists place their construction between 4,500 and 3,300 BCE in the Neolithic period. That makes them contemporaneous with early civilizations in Mesopotamia, the builders of the first pyramids, and yet they belong to a culture that left no written records. The stones themselves, some weighing over 10 tons, pose questions that are immediately physical as well as historical. How did prehistoric communities transport and position them with such accuracy, without the aid of metal tools or wheeled vehicles? The alignments are particularly striking. At Carnac, the stones are not randomly placed but arranged in parallel rows, sometimes numbering over 1,000, pointing toward the horizon in specific directions. Some researchers suggest astronomical alignment, positing that the stones may mark solstices, lunar cycles, or the rising and setting of particular stars. Others propose that they were used in ceremonies, rituals conducted over centuries, marking cycles of life, death, and time itself. Yet no evidence has conclusively linked them to any one function. Excavations in and around the sites have revealed occasional burial chambers and dolmens, stone tombs beneath or adjacent to the alignments, indicating that death and remembrance were central to the builders' culture. Yet the scale of the megaliths far surpasses what is required for burials alone, implying a broader, more complex purpose. Were they temples in the open air, monuments to deities we cannot name, or markers for journeys of the soul? The construction techniques of the Carnac stones are equally enigmatic. Quarrying, shaping, and transporting such massive blocks would have required sophisticated coordination, knowledge of leverage, and communal effort. Archaeologists have proposed the use of wooden sledges, rollers, and earthen ramps, but even with such methods, the organization, labor, and ingenuity necessary are staggering. Could a society so seemingly primitive have developed such large-scale engineering? Or were there methods, now lost to time, that allowed them to achieve feats we struggle to replicate even today? Speculative theories abound. Some suggest that the stones emit energy, perhaps resonating with natural ley lines or geomagnetic fields, a notion that, while controversial, adds to the sense of mystery. Others propose astronomical observatories of a type far earlier than previously documented, pointing to an ancient civilization intimately aware of celestial cycles. There are even fringe hypotheses connecting the stones to lost advanced civilizations, or to prehistoric knowledge that modern science has yet to rediscover. While these remain unproven, the very fact that such theories are considered reflects the profound strangeness of the site. The Carnac megaliths also bear witness to human imagination. Over millennia, local folklore has grown around the stones, tales of giants who once walked the land and were turned to stone, or processions of warriors frozen in mid-March. These stories, while not historical fact, underscore the awe these structures inspired across generations. They are monumental not just in size, but in the way they shape human perception, provoking questions about the relationship between landscape, ritual, and memory. When one walks among the rows, the experience is both grounding and disorienting. Each stone, weathered and worn, bears the weight of thousands of years. Yet their arrangement suggests a deliberate intelligence and purpose. Patterns emerge in the eyes of the observer, but their original intent remains elusive. Were the stones aligned to the sun, the moon, or distant stars? Were they territorial markers, ceremonial avenues, or symbolic maps of the cosmos? Or perhaps they were all of these, layered with meanings we cannot fully comprehend. The Carnac megaliths also challenge our understanding of chronology. They predate most known civilizations capable of large-scale construction, yet their ambition rivals, and in some ways exceeds, contemporaneous structures elsewhere. If the builders possessed this level of organization and foresight, what other achievements might have been lost to time? How much of their knowledge, philosophy, and culture vanished with the passing of generations, leaving only these silent stones as testimony? Even today, modern techniques, from ground-penetrating radar to 3D mapping, reveal further complexity beneath the surface. Subterranean features, Hidden alignments and stone arrangements that are difficult to detect with the naked eye suggest that much remains undiscovered. Each new finding only deepens the mystery, hinting at a civilization whose understanding of landscape, astronomy, and human ritual may have been far more sophisticated than we have imagined. And so, standing in the midst of the Carnac alignments, one cannot escape the sense of both scale and silence. These stones, silent for thousands of years, continue to provoke questions. Who decided their placement? What knowledge guided their arrangement? What ceremonies or meanings accompanied their erection, now lost in the fog of prehistory? The megaliths endure as a landscape of enigma, a tangible record of human ambition and imagination, yet a puzzle whose full solution remains beyond reach. They invite us to consider the extraordinary capabilities of our ancestors, to ponder the mysteries of their world, and to acknowledge that the past, in its immensity, often defies the neat boundaries we try to impose upon it. Could it be that, like the Bosnian Pyramids or the Sumerian king list, the Carnac megaliths are fragments of a larger story, one of human ingenuity, ritual, and understanding that we have only glimpsed? Or are they a monument to mystery itself, a reminder that some questions may never be fully answered, and that the past is often far stranger than we can imagine? Flowing from the windswept plains of Brittany, where the Carnac megaliths stand as silent witnesses to the ingenuity and ritual of Neolithic societies, our journey now takes us far to the east, to the verdant hills of Zhejiang province in China, where an astonishing network of man-made caverns lies hidden beneath the earth. The Longyou Caves. At first glance, the Longyou Caves might appear as ordinary quarries or natural formations. Yet upon closer inspection, their sheer scale and precision defy conventional explanation. Carved entirely by hand from solid siltstone, these vast underground chambers extend for thousands of square meters, with ceilings soaring several meters high and walls perfectly squared and grooved. Some caverns measure more than 30 meters in length and 10 meters in height, while the interconnected network stretches across multiple villages, revealing a hidden labyrinth that seems almost designed to dwarf the human imagination. Archaeologists estimate that the caves are at least 2,000 to 3,000 years old, yet no records mention their construction, purpose, or the people who undertook such a monumental task. How could ancient laborers carve such enormous chambers with the tools of the period, moving immense quantities of stone while achieving near-perfect symmetry? The craftsmanship is precise. Every surface is marked with parallel chisel strokes, aligned with such regularity that the effort involved is almost incomprehensible. The Longyou Caves are not merely functional spaces. They are architectural statements. The ceilings, sometimes decorated with delicate, repeating patterns, suggest aesthetic consideration alongside practicality. The chambers themselves are arranged in clusters, with interconnecting passages and corridors. Many floors show traces of meticulous leveling, and drainage systems appear to manage water flow. The engineering knowledge implied by these features is remarkable, especially given the absence of any written documentation or historical acknowledgement. Perhaps the most perplexing aspect of the Longyou Caves is their sheer invisibility in recorded history. Unlike other monumental constructions in ancient China, these caves were unknown to scholars and archaeologists until 1992, when a local villager stumbled upon one while repairing a pond. Even more curious, initial exploration revealed no rubble or debris outside the caves, suggesting that the material excavated, thousands of tons of stone, was removed or repurposed in a way that leaves no trace. How could such an extensive project remain completely unrecorded, its labor and purpose erased from memory? Speculation about their function has been wide-ranging and often mysterious. Some suggest that the caves served as storage chambers, designed to protect goods or treasures from floods, theft, or decay. Others propose religious or ceremonial use, arguing that the effort invested in their construction implies spiritual significance. A few researchers have even suggested more exotic purposes: defensive bunkers, subterranean cities, or ritual sites aligned with unknown cosmological beliefs. Whatever the original intent, the scale and precision suggest that the caves were far more than simple quarries. The Longyou Caves also present curious acoustic phenomena. Certain chambers amplify sound in unusual ways, with reverberations that echo unnaturally, creating an otherworldly atmosphere. Could this have been intentional, a design element to enhance ceremony or ritual? Or is it a byproduct of the extraordinary geometry and uniformity of the spaces, reflecting the builder's remarkable understanding of stone and spatial dynamics? Despite decades of investigation, no inscriptions, tools, or artifacts have been found within the caves to provide context. There are no records of the laborers who carved them, the rulers who commissioned them, or the communities that might have used them. Carbon dating and geological analysis give us a sense of age, but they do not explain motivation. Were these chambers constructed over years or decades? What methods did workers use to lift, cut, and position enormous slabs of siltstone? And, most provocatively, why is there no mention in historical annals of such an immense undertaking? The Longyou Caves invite comparison with other enigmatic sites around the world. Underground networks like the Hypogeum of Hal Saflieni in Malta, or the tunnel systems beneath the Bosnian Pyramids. Across cultures and continents, humans have shaped subterranean spaces with precision and purpose, yet the techniques and intentions remain largely mysterious. What do these shared impulses tell us about the universal human desire to carve, to shelter, to ritualize, or perhaps to hide? Walking through the Longyou Caves, one is struck by a sense of quiet awe. The air is cool and still, carrying the faint scent of stone and earth. Shadows stretch across chiseled walls, accentuating the depth and scale of each chamber. Light, when introduced, glints off smooth surfaces, highlighting the meticulous work of hands long gone. It is easy to imagine the laborers at work, straining against the weight of stone, guided by knowledge now lost, leaving behind a network that whispers both ingenuity and mystery. Ultimately, the Longyou Caves remain a testament to human capability and enigma. They provoke questions about lost technologies, undocumented civilizations, and the capacity of ancient societies to reshape their environment on a monumental scale. Every corner, every groove, and every column of siltstone challenges assumptions about the past, reminding us that history is not a simple line of recorded events, but a landscape filled with hidden wonders. Could these caves be the remnants of a sophisticated culture whose memory has vanished, leaving only stone as evidence of their ambition? Or are they the product of something even more extraordinary? A knowledge or methodology entirely forgotten by time, waiting silently beneath the earth to inspire awe and curiosity in those who discover it. As we stand within these shadowed halls, contemplating the magnitude of what was created, the Longyou Caves ask a question that echoes across centuries. How much of human history remains hidden, etched into stone, buried beneath soil, or obscured by time, waiting for those who dare to uncover it? In their silence, they challenge us not only to understand, but to imagine and to accept that some mysteries may never be fully explained. Flowing from the hidden chambers of the Longyou Caves, where human hands carved monumental spaces beneath the earth, we now ascend to the rugged hills above the ancient city of Cusco in Peru, where stone rises not from excavation, but from construction, forming walls that have defied explanation for centuries. The Sacsayhuamán Walls. Perched on the northern edge of the city, the walls of Sacsayhuamán stretch across steep terraces, their massive stones interlocking with a precision that seems almost impossible. Viewed from below, the walls appear to ripple and curve with the contours of the hill, yet each block fits seamlessly with its neighbors, some of them weighing over 100 tons. The edges are so exact that no mortar was needed, Even today, a knife cannot be inserted between many of the stones. Walking along the terraces, one cannot help but sense the monumental effort and ingenuity required to shape, transport, and place these megaliths so precisely on such uneven terrain. Dating to the Inca period, likely between the 15th and early 16th centuries, Sacsayhuamán is generally regarded as a fortress or ceremonial complex. Historical records describe it as a military stronghold designed to protect the city of Cusco, the capital of the Inca Empire. Yet the more one studies the walls, the more questions arise. How did the Incas manage to quarry, carve, and position such enormous stones with the tools known to them at the time, primarily bronze or stone chisels, ropes, and wooden levers? And why, despite these limitations, do the walls exhibit a level of precision and stability that modern engineers still find astonishing? The construction techniques of Sacsayhuamán continue to perplex experts. Stones are shaped to fit together in polygonal patterns, with multiple angles and irregular edges that defy simple stacking. This method, known as ashlar masonry, allows the walls to withstand seismic activity, a feature remarkably effective in earthquake-prone Peru. Yet while the functional explanation is compelling, it only deepens the mystery. How did the builders calculate such perfect fits without advanced measurement tools, and how did they manipulate stones of such enormous mass without modern machinery? The scale of Sacsayhuamán is equally extraordinary. The largest stones are not only heavy, but irregular in shape, demanding a combination of brute force, ingenuity, and coordination to move them into position. Scholars have proposed theories involving rolling logs, inclined planes, and sheer manpower, yet the sheer precision achieved remains difficult to reconcile with these methods. Was there an undiscovered technique, now lost to history, that allowed the Incas to achieve what seems impossible even today? Beyond the physical construction, the layout of Sacsayhuamán is enigmatic. The terraces, walls, and adjacent plazas suggest both defensive and ceremonial purposes, but the exact nature of the rituals or strategies employed here remains unclear. Some researchers argue that the site was a fortress, part of Cusco's defense system, while others point to astronomical alignments, noting that certain walls and terraces correspond to solstices or other celestial events. Could the Incas have imbued the walls with knowledge of the heavens, combining engineering with cosmology in a way that is still not fully understood? The symbolic and cultural significance of Sacsayhuamán adds another layer to its mystery. The Inca Empire emphasized harmony between human activity and the natural world, and the walls themselves seem to echo this principle. The stones are placed in a way that mirrors the jagged contours of the surrounding mountains, creating a visual continuity between the man-made and the natural. Was this a deliberate aesthetic choice, or a byproduct of practical construction on a steep hillside? Perhaps it was both, a fusion of form, function, and spiritual intent. Some fringe theories suggest that Sacsayhuamán predates the Inca, built by a much older, unknown civilization whose knowledge and methods were later adopted by the Incas. Proponents point to the extraordinary size of some stones, the precision of their fitting, and the lack of definitive records describing the construction process. While these ideas remain speculative, they underscore the enduring mystery of the site. Even with extensive study, much about Sacsayhuamán's origins, construction, and purpose remains unresolved. Standing before the walls today, it is impossible not to feel the presence of generations long gone. Laborers who moved and shaped stones with patience and ingenuity, visionaries who imagined the terraces and their relationship to the mountains, and leaders who orchestrated an endeavor of such scale and ambition. The walls have survived earthquakes, weathering, and the passage of centuries, a testament to both skill and foresight. Yet their creation still challenges our understanding of what was possible in the pre-modern world. The mystery of Sacsayhuamán is compounded by the absence of detailed written records. The Incas left few texts describing their engineering practices, and much knowledge was transmitted orally. Archaeologists and engineers must rely on observation, experimentation, and inference to reconstruct methods, leaving room for wonder and uncertainty. Every hypothesis about construction, alignment, or purpose raises further questions, reminding us that the past is often more complex and sophisticated than we assume. Could Sacsayhuamán be the culmination of centuries of architectural evolution, an apex of Inca ingenuity honed over generations? Or is it possible that hidden knowledge, lost to time, guided the construction in ways we have yet to comprehend? Were the walls intended primarily for defense, ritual, or something far more symbolic? An enduring statement of human mastery over stone, landscape, and memory? As we walk along the terraces, tracing the contours of stones shaped with extraordinary precision, the questions persist. The walls themselves are silent, yet they speak across centuries of ambition, skill, and mystery. Sacsayhuamán reminds us that human history is not a simple chronicle of events, but a complex tapestry of achievement, ingenuity, and unanswered questions. In the shadows of these monumental stones, we are left with a sense of awe and curiosity. How much of the past remains hidden in plain sight, its methods lost, its intentions obscure, yet its impact on our understanding of human capability undeniable. The Sacsayhuamán Walls endure as both monument and mystery, inviting us to contemplate not only the skill of their builders, but also the possibilities still hidden in the folds of history. Flowing from the monumental stonework of Sacsayhuamán, where human ingenuity carved precision into massive terraces that endure through centuries, we now turn from the solid earth to a different kind of enigma, one that is not measured in tons or terraces, but in clarity, craftsmanship, and mystery. Across museum halls and private collections lie objects that have captured the imagination of scholars, explorers, and the curious alike: the crystal skulls. These skulls, carved from clear or milky quartz, vary in size from small handheld forms to life-sized representations, each polished to a smooth, glass-like finish. Their surfaces are precise, their eye sockets deep and symmetrical, their jaws and teeth rendered with astonishing realism. At first glance, they appear as exquisite artistic creations, but it is the context, the origin, and the supposed properties of these skulls that elevate them from craftsmanship to enigma. The most famous examples, such as the Mitchell-Hedges skull, are often said to have been discovered in Central American ruins, attributed to ancient civilizations such as the Maya or Aztec. However, historical documentation is sparse and sometimes contradictory. Scientific analyses of some skulls have revealed tool marks consistent with modern rotary equipment, raising questions about whether they are ancient or modern creations. Yet others exhibit a quality of precision and material purity that challenges our understanding of ancient lapidary techniques. Could it be that civilizations thousands of years ago possessed knowledge of crystal working lost to us today? Many who have studied the skulls note that quartz is not an easy material to shape. It is hard, brittle, and prone to fracturing under stress. Carving a life-sized skull with such clarity, smoothness, and detail, without shattering the crystal, requires extraordinary skill and patience. For modern craftspeople, the process can take months, even with rotary tools. How then could pre-Columbian artisans, using only rudimentary hand tools and abrasives, create forms that rival or even surpass modern craftsmanship? The intrigue deepens when considering the lore surrounding the skulls. In the 20th century, they became associated with mystical properties. Some claim they can emit light, store energy, or even influence human consciousness. Tales abound of skulls singing, or transmitting visions when held or aligned with certain points of the earth. While such claims remain unproven and fall outside mainstream science, The persistence of these stories highlights humanity's enduring fascination with objects that seem to straddle the boundary between the material and the inexplicable. Skeptics argue that the skulls are simply modern creations, cleverly marketed and mythologized. Yet there are aspects that remain difficult to dismiss. For instance, microscopic analysis of some skulls shows wear patterns consistent with prolonged handling, as though they were used ritually or ceremonially over extended periods. Moreover, certain skulls appear to have been deliberately aligned with cardinal points or celestial cycles, echoing patterns found in ancient Mesoamerican architecture and suggesting that their significance may extend beyond mere decoration. The question of origin is further complicated by the incomplete archaeological record. Many skulls were acquired through private collections, undocumented excavations, or dubious sales, leaving little reliable provenance. This ambiguity has fueled both fascination and controversy. Are they relics of forgotten civilizations with knowledge of crystal work far beyond what we credit to ancient peoples? Or are they sophisticated hoaxes that have woven themselves into myth and popular imagination? Scientific investigation has attempted to uncover the truth. Techniques such as electron microscopy, spectroscopy, and X-ray crystallography have revealed incredible precision in the carvings, sometimes at scales smaller than would be achievable by hand with ancient tools alone. Yet even with such analysis, questions remain unanswered. If some skulls are authentic ancient creations, what was their intended purpose? Were they ceremonial objects, instruments of meditation, or symbols of power and knowledge? The human fascination with skulls themselves may provide a clue. Across cultures, skulls symbolize mortality, ancestry, and the passage between worlds. To craft one from crystal, a material both fragile and enduring, imbues it with duality, permanence and transparency, solidity and ethereality. Perhaps this is why the skulls continue to inspire speculation. They are as much mirrors of human curiosity as they are artifacts of craftsmanship. Even today, the crystal skulls captivate and confound. Museums display them under controlled lighting. Private collectors keep them in quiet reverence, and researchers continue to debate their authenticity, origins, and possible functions. Each skull carries with it a narrative, a lineage of discovery, myth, and intrigue that is nearly as complex as the stone itself. As we examine these luminous objects, polished to perfection yet shrouded in mystery, we are confronted with the limits of knowledge. Were these skulls made by ancient hands, guided by techniques we have yet to rediscover? Were they imbued with ritual, purpose, or symbolic meaning lost to time? Or are they artifacts of modern ingenuity, mythologized into something larger than themselves by human imagination? The crystal skulls, like the Sacsayhuamán Walls that precede them in this journey, invite reflection on the extraordinary capabilities and enduring mysteries of humanity. They challenge us to consider the intersection of skill, culture, and the unexplained, urging us to question what we know about the past and what may yet remain hidden. In their translucent silence, the skulls seem to ask, how much of human knowledge has been lost to the passage of time? How many other marvels, now vanished or undiscovered, lie waiting to reveal themselves? And, perhaps most provocatively, what is it about certain objects that compels us to believe they carry more than material form, that they hold secrets, messages, or echoes from civilizations that knew more than we can imagine? The crystal skulls remain an enduring enigma, a blend of artistry, mystery, and speculation. They compel us not simply to observe, but to wonder, to question, and to consider that even the most carefully examined objects may harbor truths we have yet to uncover. In their clarity, there is opacity. In their beauty, there is uncertainty. And in their silence, a persistent invitation to explore the boundaries of history, craftsmanship, and human curiosity. Flowing from the enigmatic crystal skulls, objects of unparalleled craftsmanship and enduring mystery, our journey now returns to the earth itself, to a landscape of tropical forests and rolling plains where human hands shaped stone with uncanny precision. The Costa Rica stone spheres. Scattered across the southern plains of Costa Rica, near the Diquis Delta and the region of Palmar Sur, these spheres emerge from the jungle floor like timeless sentinels. They vary in size from a few centimeters to over 2 meters in diameter, their surfaces smooth and rounded to near perfection. Some weigh several tons, yet they maintain an almost eerie uniformity in shape. Standing beside one cannot help but notice the extraordinary symmetry and balance. An imperfection in even the smallest sphere is almost imperceptible, yet the cumulative effect is mesmerizing. Archaeologists attribute these stones to the Diquis culture, flourishing between 500 CE and 1500 CE. Yet, beyond the broad strokes of culture and chronology, very little is known about their origin or purpose. The spheres are predominantly made of gabbro, limestone, or other igneous rocks, quarried from locations sometimes kilometers away from where the spheres were ultimately placed. This raises immediate questions about logistics. How did pre-Columbian peoples transport these massive stones through dense jungle, rivers, and uneven terrain without wheels or draft animals? What methods allowed them to shape these boulders into near-perfect spheres using only rudimentary tools? The precision of the spheres' shapes is striking. Some researchers argue that they may have been formed by repeated pecking and grinding with stone tools, while others suggest techniques now lost to history, capable of achieving a uniform curvature that would challenge even modern engineers. Many spheres exhibit no tool marks visible to the naked eye, a subtlety that suggests meticulous attention and extraordinary patience. Could these objects represent a sophisticated understanding of geometry and craftsmanship, long before such concepts were formally codified? Even more perplexing is the placement of the spheres. Many are found in alignments, clusters, or along pathways, sometimes in proximity to ancient settlements and ceremonial sites. Some researchers speculate that the arrangement reflects astronomical knowledge, mapping solstices, lunar cycles, or celestial events. Others see evidence of social hierarchy, with spheres positioned to denote power, influence, or ritual significance. Yet, without written records or inscriptions, every interpretation remains speculative, leaving the spheres suspended between function, symbolism, and enigma. The spheres' durability adds another layer to their mystery. Over centuries, they have resisted weathering, displacement, and human intervention, retaining their form despite the passage of time in a tropical climate. Their persistence hints at careful selection of material and placement, suggesting that the builders were not merely creating objects, but enduring monuments with intentionality beyond what is immediately apparent. Scientific investigations have revealed tantalizing details. Some spheres have hollow cores or internal fractures, while others are remarkably dense, each exhibiting subtle variations that hint at deliberate design choices. The sheer scale of some spheres, reaching over 2 meters in diameter and several tons in weight, forces us to consider the collective effort, planning, and social organization required to quarry, transport, and position them. Was their creation an act of communal labor, spiritual devotion, or political display? Perhaps it was all three. Speculative theories have flourished in parallel with scientific study. Some propose that the spheres were markers for long-lost networks, guiding trade or travel across the dense terrain. Others suggest ritualistic or cosmological purposes, linking the spheres to beliefs about the cosmos, the afterlife, or ancestral spirits. A few have even ventured that the stones represent knowledge or messages encoded in their arrangement, something modern eyes are not equipped to decipher. While unproven, these ideas underscore the profound sense of wonder the spheres continue to inspire. The Costa Rica stone spheres, also illuminate the gap between what we know and what has been lost. Unlike monumental architecture, which leaves clear traces in the landscape, these spheres are isolated, movable, and enigmatic. Many were displaced or destroyed in the 20th century by agricultural development, revealing how fragile the record of human ingenuity can be. Yet enough remain to provoke awe, prompting questions about the culture that created them and the sophistication they must have possessed. As one moves among the spheres, the experience is quietly mesmerizing. They are both ordinary and extraordinary, simple in form, yet breathtaking in execution. Their smooth, tactile surfaces invite contemplation, while their arrangement in the landscape sparks curiosity. Were they placed to mark sacred spaces, guide travelers, or align with the stars? Or did they serve purposes we have yet to imagine, functions lost to time along with the people who created them? Ultimately, the Costa Rica stone spheres remind us of the human capacity for precision, patience, and symbolic expression. They challenge assumptions about the technological and intellectual abilities of pre-Columbian societies, suggesting a level of sophistication that conventional narratives often overlook. At the same time, their silence, a lack of inscriptions, records, or explanations, leaves room for wonder, inviting us to speculate and imagine without certainty. Could these spheres, like the crystal skulls or the walls of Sacsayhuamán, represent fragments of knowledge that were once widespread but are now partially lost? Do they point to rituals, systems, or understandings of the world that modern scholarship has yet to recover? Or are they monuments to human patience and creativity, their meaning intended to endure beyond comprehension? As we trace the smooth curves, weigh the immense stones, and consider their alignments across the landscape, the Costa Rica stone spheres continue to whisper their mystery. They speak not in words or records, but in geometry, craftsmanship, and placement, inviting us to wonder what other marvels, hidden or forgotten, remain in the folds of our world, awaiting the patient gaze of discovery. Flowing from the tropical plains of Costa Rica, where stone spheres rise with silent symmetry, we now travel across continents and millennia to the arid plains of the Indus Valley, where one of the world's earliest urban civilizations unfolded with astonishing sophistication, the ancient city of Mohenjo-Daro. As the sun rises over the flat landscape of Sindh, Pakistan, the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro emerge as a ghostly imprint of a city lost to time. Mud brick walls stretch across a grid-like layout, streets intersecting at near-perfect right angles, forming a pattern that speaks of deliberate planning and civic design. The city's architecture, though weathered by millennia, retains an air of order and intention. Well-constructed houses with multiple rooms, sophisticated drainage systems, and what appears to be an early form of public baths. Standing among the remnants, one is struck by a sense of human achievement. An entire metropolis, flourishing over 4,000 years ago, yet now silent and enigmatic. Mohenjo-Daro is part of the larger Indus Valley civilization, which thrived between 2600 and 1900 BCE. Archaeological evidence suggests a society that valued sanitation, urban planning, and standardized construction. Streets were paved, bricks were uniform in size, and sophisticated water management systems ran beneath the city. Yet despite this clear evidence of organization, the civilization left no decipherable written records, and its political structure, religion, and social hierarchy remain largely speculative. How did a society achieve such urban sophistication without leaving behind clear textual accounts? And why, despite its apparent success, did it decline so suddenly and mysteriously? The scale and precision of Mohenjo-Daro continue to challenge modern assumptions about early civilizations. The Great Bath, an enormous pool with watertight brickwork and elaborate drainage, suggests that public hygiene or ritual bathing may have been central to civic life. Homes are arranged in blocks with interior courtyards, and many contain private wells, indicating both foresight and technical skill. The city's sewer systems, with covered drains and channels running beneath streets, rival the engineering of later civilizations. How, in a society lacking iron tools, wheels for transport, or a written bureaucratic system, could such infrastructure be built and maintained at scale? Beyond the technical achievements lies a deeper mystery. The abrupt decline of Mohenjo-Daro and the Indus Valley civilization as a whole. Archaeologists debate potential causes: flooding, shifting river courses, climate change, disease, or invasion, but none provide a definitive answer. Entire cities were abandoned, streets emptied, and knowledge of the writing system lost. Could the ruins we see today be remnants of a society that vanished almost without a trace, leaving behind only the stones and mud of their once thriving metropolis? Mohenjo-Daro also presents puzzles in symbolism and culture. Seals engraved with animals, human figures, and mysterious inscriptions hint at spiritual beliefs or administrative functions, yet their meaning eludes scholars. Statues and figurines, some small and intimate, others larger and imposing, suggest a rich cultural and religious life. And then there is the question of standardization. Bricks, weights, and measures were remarkably uniform across the Indus Valley, implying communication, trade, and centralized authority. But how was this achieved, and why has no explicit record survived? The layout of the city itself raises further intrigue. Streets are oriented in precise cardinal directions, a level of planning that suggests astronomical or cosmological knowledge. Public spaces, residential quarters, and possibly administrative centers are integrated seamlessly, hinting at a sophisticated understanding of civic organization. Yet the purpose of many structures remains unknown. Was the Great Bath purely ritualistic, or did it serve a civic function? Were certain terraces or platforms, temples, markets, or political centers? The evidence leaves much to the imagination, inviting speculation without providing certainty. Some researchers propose that Mohenjo-Daro reflects a society more advanced than previously credited, one capable of remarkable urban planning, public health management, and architectural standardization, yet somehow it remained ephemeral, a civilization whose knowledge was lost to time. Others suggest that we may never fully understand its social or spiritual fabric, that some civilizations leave behind structures more enduring than their stories. The juxtaposition of achievement and mystery gives Mohenjo-Daro an almost ethereal presence, tangible in its bricks, yet intangible in its history. Even today, excavations reveal new enigmas. Buried layers of the city hint at earlier phases of occupation, perhaps stretching back centuries before the Great Bath and grid layout were constructed. Artifacts such as pottery, tools, and ornaments provide insight into daily life, trade, and artistic expression, but they cannot answer the fundamental questions. Who governed these people? How did they communicate across vast regions? And what caused a society so capable to vanish almost entirely? Walking among the ruins, the silence is profound. The streets, now worn and eroded, once teemed with merchants, artisans, and families. Wells that once supplied water to households now stand empty. The city's logic, its planning, its engineering, remain visible. But the people and their language are gone. This juxtaposition of precision and absence creates a haunting sense of awe, reminding us that human achievement is not always permanent, and that even the most organized civilizations can vanish from memory. Mohenjo-Daro forces us to reconsider assumptions about early human societies. It is a testament to ingenuity and organization, yet simultaneously a puzzle, a record of knowledge lost. Could it be that the city harbored secrets about urban planning, engineering, and social governance far ahead of its time? Or are we projecting modern expectations onto a culture that simply operated on principles we are only beginning to understand? As we examine the grids of streets, the remnants of walls, and the great bath's enduring outline, Mohenjo-Daro reminds us that the past is full of mysteries that persist in plain sight. Its story, half told, half hidden, invites us to imagine the lives of those who built it, to question the forces that led to its decline, and to wonder what other forgotten civilizations await discovery beneath the layers of history. The ancient city, in all its silent grandeur, poses a question that lingers beyond the bricks and mud. How much of human achievement, knowledge, and culture has been lost, and what truths about our shared past remain buried, waiting for the patient eye to uncover them? Flowing from the ancient streets and sophisticated engineering of Mohenjo-Daro, where urban planning and civilization speak silently across millennia, our journey now shifts to the rugged plains of Lebanon, where colossal stones rise in a harmony of scale and precision that defies conventional explanation. The Baalbek Megaliths. Set in the fertile Bekaa Valley, the ruins of Baalbek form a striking contrast against the surrounding mountains. The site, once a center of Roman architecture and worship, is dominated by a series of terraces and platforms, upon which the remains of monumental temples stand. Yet what draws the attention of scholars, engineers, and travelers alike are the megalithic foundations, the largest stones ever quarried and moved in the ancient world. Known as the Trilithon, 3 stones alone weigh an estimated 800 to 1,000 tons each, resting with remarkable precision on the platform without mortar. How were these enormous blocks transported, positioned, and aligned in a time without cranes, wheeled transport, or modern machinery? Archaeological evidence confirms that the Romans built a grand temple complex atop these foundations, but they did not quarry or place the largest stones themselves. The origins of these massive blocks remain shrouded in mystery. The quarries are nearby, yet moving stones of such magnitude over even short distances presents an engineering problem that continues to baffle modern experts. Methods proposed, rolling on logs, sledges, or lubricated tracks, explain part of the process, yet the accuracy and alignment achieved remains extraordinary. Could ancient civilizations have possessed knowledge or techniques that were lost to time? The precision of placement at Baalbek is remarkable. The stones are cut with nearly perfect flatness and fit so precisely that a thin blade cannot be inserted between many of them. Some of the largest stones are irregularly shaped, yet the masons achieved an extraordinary interlocking stability. The care taken in leveling and aligning these megaliths suggests both technical expertise and intentionality beyond simple utilitarian construction. Was this level of precision purely functional, or did it serve a ceremonial, symbolic, or cosmological purpose as well? Even more puzzling are the even larger stones found partially quarried nearby, such as the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, weighing an estimated 1,200 tons, and another block over 1,600 tons still lying in the quarry. These stones, larger than anything known to have been moved in antiquity, suggest a monumental ambition. Were these meant for the terraces, the temples, or an unknown structure that was never completed? And if so, what techniques, organization, and manpower would have been required to transport and erect them? Baalbek has long attracted speculation, both scholarly and speculative. Some researchers argue that the site represents an evolution of megalithic traditions, connecting Lebanon to other ancient stone-building cultures around the Mediterranean. Others propose more extraordinary theories, that a prehistoric civilization, predating the Romans, moved the stones with technologies now lost, or that the site reflects astronomical or spiritual knowledge encoded in stone. While evidence remains inconclusive, the magnitude of the megaliths continues to inspire awe and curiosity. The symbolic significance of Baalbek also adds layers of intrigue. The site is traditionally associated with ancient Semitic deities, later incorporated into Hellenistic and Roman religious practices. The blending of cultures, rituals, and architectural ambitions may have imbued the site with meanings that remain indecipherable. The sheer scale of the stones seems almost designed to evoke wonder, demonstrating power, faith, or cosmic alignment. Could the builders have intended these megaliths to communicate something that transcends ordinary architecture? A message in stone meant to endure millennia? Even in modern times, engineers and archaeologists struggle to reconcile the scale of the Baalbek megaliths with the technological capabilities of ancient societies. Experimental archaeology can replicate the movement of smaller stones, yet the techniques required for the largest blocks remain hypothetical. Observers are left to consider the ingenuity, social organization, and determination necessary to undertake such projects, and to wonder whether some elements of ancient construction knowledge have been irretrievably lost. Walking among the terraces, one is struck not only by scale, but by the tactile presence of the stones. Each massive block, smoothed and positioned with astonishing care, radiates a sense of permanence and deliberate intention. Shadows cast along their surfaces reveal the interplay of angles and joints, suggesting a mastery of geometry and physical knowledge rarely attributed to pre-Roman builders. And yet, despite this mastery, the origins of the heaviest stones remain unexplained, leaving an enduring enigma at the heart of the site. Baalbek also prompts reflection on the nature of human ambition. Across millennia, civilizations have sought to shape their environment, to leave tangible marks of their presence, to challenge the limits of what is possible. In doing so, they left behind objects that continue to provoke awe and mystery. At Baalbek, these ambitions are monumental, carved in stone, and immovable even by the passage of time. Could it be that, like the great cities, pyramids, and subterranean complexes we have explored, Baalbek preserves traces of knowledge, technology, or ritual understanding that we have yet to comprehend? Do the stones themselves encode information about alignment, power, or cosmic principles now lost? Or are they simply a testament to human determination, ingenuity, and the pursuit of grandeur, monumentalized in ways that challenge our assumptions about ancient capabilities? As the sun sets over the Bekaa Valley, casting long shadows across the massive terraces, the Baalbek megaliths continue to captivate. They are a silent dialogue between human ambition and natural scale, between engineering mastery and mystery, between history and what lies beyond the record. In their immensity, they pose a question that echoes across time. How much of the past remains hidden in plain sight, waiting for us to uncover the extraordinary amidst the ordinary, and to grapple with the unknown capabilities of those who came before us? Flowing from the monumental terraces of Baalbek, where human ambition and stone converge on a scale that still bewilders modern observers, we now turn our gaze to the sun-soaked landscapes of southern Greece, to a site less renowned but equally enigmatic, the Hellenikon Pyramid. Perched atop a modest hill near the village of Hellenikon, the structure appears at first glance as a simple mound of stone and earth. Yet closer examination reveals a series of terraces, angular alignments, and large limestone blocks that suggest deliberate construction. The pyramid's shape is subtle, its slopes gentle, yet the geometry hints at planning and intention beyond what one might expect from a natural hill. The stones themselves, some weighing several tons, are arranged with care, fitting together in ways that suggest purpose and design. Standing there, one senses the quiet persistence of history, a structure largely overlooked, yet silently bearing the imprint of human hands and vision. The Hellenikon pyramid has been dated to the Bronze Age, though precise chronology is disputed. Some researchers place it around 2500 to 2000 BCE, while others argue for later dates. Archaeological investigation has been limited, and much of the structure is buried beneath centuries of erosion and vegetation, leaving significant gaps in understanding. What is clear is that it predates, or is at least contemporaneous with, other European megalithic constructions, raising questions about the extent and sophistication of early Greek builders. The puzzle of Hellenikon lies not just in its shape, but in the implications of its construction. Unlike the massive pyramids of Egypt or the stone terraces of Baalbek, Hellenikon is modest in scale, yet precise in execution. The terraces suggest a purposeful design, perhaps for ritual, observation, or territorial demarcation. Could this site represent a lost architectural tradition in the Mediterranean, one that predates written records and has left only subtle traces for us to interpret? The stones themselves provide further intrigue. Cut from local limestone, they are larger than typical Bronze Age building blocks in the region, yet fitted together without mortar in a manner that emphasizes stability and symmetry. How did early builders, without advanced tools, manage to shape, transport, and position these stones with such care? And why would they invest such effort in a site that, to later generations, seemed unremarkable, so much so that it remained largely ignored until recent centuries? Speculative theories have surrounded the Hellenikon pyramid since its recognition by archaeologists in the 20th century. Some suggest it was a ceremonial site aligned with celestial events, echoing practices observed in other ancient cultures that marked solstices or equinoxes with megalithic constructions. Others propose it was a defensive structure, a lookout or fortress disguised as a pyramid to maintain strategic advantage. Yet, without inscriptions or artifacts to anchor these theories, each hypothesis remains provisional. The ambiguity itself becomes part of the allure. The site also invites reflection on cultural transmission. Could the Hellenikon pyramid be connected to broader megalithic traditions across the Mediterranean? Comparisons with Egyptian, Maltese, and Mycenaean sites have been made, highlighting both similarities and differences in stoneworking techniques, geometry, and landscape placement. Was there a shared knowledge or architectural language circulating in the Bronze Age, now fragmented and obscured by millennia of loss? Or is Hellenikon a unique, localized experiment in human ingenuity, a solitary expression of architectural ambition in its landscape? Even the environment contributes to the mystery. From the summit of the hill, the surrounding plains stretch outward, punctuated by distant mountains and rivers. Could the pyramid's builders have chosen the site for strategic, spiritual, or astronomical reasons? Observers have noted the orientation of terraces and angles, hinting at potential alignments with rising and setting sun, lunar cycles, or other celestial markers. Whether intentional or coincidental, these alignments provoke curiosity. Did ancient builders encode knowledge of the cosmos into the very layout of their constructions, as seen in other megalithic traditions? Despite modern surveying and limited excavation, much about Hellenikon remains hidden. Erosion, agriculture, and human activity have obscured original surfaces, while few artifacts have been found to provide context. Each discovery raises more questions than it answers. Who constructed the pyramid, and for what purpose? How does it fit within the wider Bronze Age cultures of Greece, including the Minoans and Mycenaeans? And why was such a potentially significant site left largely unrecorded and overlooked until recently? Walking among the terraces and stones today, one cannot help but feel the tension between scale and subtlety. Hellenikon is neither massive nor imposing like other pyramids, yet its presence is undeniably deliberate. Its stones, their placement, and the contours of the hill speak quietly of human intention, inviting contemplation rather than overwhelming awe. There is a sense of mystery in the way it sits within its landscape, a whisper of knowledge that has been partially lost, waiting for discovery. Could Hellenikon, like the Baalbek Megaliths or Mohenjo-Daro, represent a fragment of forgotten human knowledge, a glimpse into a civilization or tradition that once understood architectural, astronomical, or ritual principles now lost to time? Or is it a localized expression of communal effort, a monument whose meaning was clear to its builders yet has faded for us? As we stand on the gentle slopes, tracing the outlines of terraces and observing the careful positioning of stones, the Hellenikon pyramid poses enduring questions. Its quiet presence challenges us to consider the ingenuity of early societies, the knowledge they possessed, and the mysteries that remain buried within landscapes that appear familiar yet conceal extraordinary stories. In its modesty, Hellenikon reminds us that not all mysteries lie in scale. Some lie in subtlety, in precision, and in the enduring questions they provoke. The pyramid, a sentinel of time, asks us to imagine, to investigate, and to acknowledge that even the smallest hill may carry echoes of civilizations and knowledge yet to be fully understood. Flowing from the gentle slopes of southern Greece, where the Hellenikon pyramid quietly conceals its mysteries in sun-baked stone, we now turn northwest across the European landscape to the rolling hills of southern England, where a different kind of human mark is etched, not in architecture, but in the land itself. Here lies the Uffington White Horse, a figure both ancient and enigmatic, its presence as striking as it is puzzling. Perched on the escarpment of White Horse Hill in Oxfordshire, the Uffington horse stretches over 100 meters from head to tail, its form carved into the chalk of the hillside. Viewed from above, its abstract flowing lines suggest motion and grace, yet the figure is highly stylized, almost geometric rather than a literal depiction of a horse. The white chalk beneath the grass gives the figure its name, and the contrast with the surrounding green landscape makes it visible for miles, a landmark both imposing and subtle. Standing below, one can feel the slope of the hill, the sheer scale of the carving, and the careful artistry required to create such a sweeping image from the earth itself. Archaeological studies date the Uffington White Horse to the late Bronze Age or early Iron Age, approximately 3,000 years ago. Yet its purpose remains elusive. Was it a territorial marker, a religious or ceremonial symbol, or a representation of a deity or tribal emblem? Scholars have proposed many possibilities, noting parallels with Celtic art and mythology, but definitive evidence remains absent. Unlike monuments such as Stonehenge, the White Horse does not appear to have been part of a larger complex of structures, which raises further questions. Why dedicate so much effort to a single, isolated image on a hillside? The technique of construction adds another layer of intrigue. The carving was not etched superficially. It was a deliberate removal of turf to expose the chalk beneath. To maintain its sharp outlines, the image must be regularly scoured, a tradition that likely continued for centuries. This ongoing upkeep suggests a sustained cultural or ritual significance, yet the origins of this practice, and the exact motivations behind it, remain speculative. How did Bronze Age peoples conceive and execute such a precise, large-scale design without aerial perspectives, modern surveying tools, or written plans? Could their understanding of geometry, proportion, or optical perspective have been more sophisticated than we typically credit to societies of that era? The White Horse is also deeply entwined with the surrounding landscape. White Horse Hill commands a view across the Vale of White Horse, linking it visually to other prehistoric sites such as Uffington Castle and nearby Barrows. Some researchers propose that its placement was not arbitrary, but carefully chosen to relate to natural contours, celestial events, or territorial demarcations. Is it possible that the Uffington horse served as a cosmic signpost, a spiritual guidepost, or a ritual focal point visible for miles and generations? Speculative interpretations abound, reflecting the enigmatic nature of the site. Folklore connects the figure to mythological horses, dragons, and even deities of fertility or war. Some theories suggest the horse represents a solar or lunar symbol, while others propose that it marks an ancient route or ceremonial pathway. Scientific studies have attempted to correlate the orientation of the figure with solstices or other celestial alignments, yet findings are inconclusive. The absence of direct evidence allows imagination and cultural interpretation to flourish alongside archaeology. The scale and longevity of the white horse also invite reflection on human ambition. To carve a figure over 100 meters long, with flowing lines so harmonious from a distance, required careful planning, measurement, and labor. Maintaining the figure across centuries implies a communal dedication to ritual, memory, or identity. What social, spiritual, or political structures enabled this sustained effort? Was the image a symbol of unity, power, or belief, a visual language understood by generations yet opaque to modern eyes? The contrast between its abstraction and impact further deepens the mystery. Unlike figurative art meant to replicate reality, the Uffington horse is stylized, almost modern in its simplicity and elegance. Its creators distilled form to essence, capturing the idea of a horse rather than its literal appearance. This abstraction raises questions about symbolic thought in Bronze Age Britain. What inspired this form, and what did it signify to those who first carved it into the chalk hills? Despite modern study, the white horse continues to provoke wonder. Archaeologists, historians, and artists alike marvel at its audacity and subtlety. Its maintenance over centuries, its integration with the landscape, and its enduring visual impact attest to human ingenuity and cultural significance. And yet, it leaves us with questions that remain unanswered. Who first envisioned the horse, and why this particular site? How was the image executed with such precision in a pre-literate society? And what layers of meaning, ritual, symbolic, territorial, or spiritual, have been lost to time? Standing on the hillside today, the Uffington White Horse commands perspective. From below, it is a sweeping line of white against green. From afar, it dominates the horizon. It is at once monumental and subtle, ancient and timeless, a testament to human creativity rendered directly into the landscape. Its silent presence invites reflection on continuity and change, on the persistence of memory in the absence of text, and on the capacity of humans to leave enduring symbols that continue to intrigue millennia later. Could the Uffington White Horse, like the Hellenikon Pyramid or Baalbek Megaliths, represent a fragment of lost knowledge, a symbolic system we cannot fully decipher? Or is it simply a monumental expression of identity, crafted by a community seeking permanence, visibility, and connection to the land and sky? Perhaps it is both, a creation that embodies artistry, ritual, and mystery in equal measure. As the wind sweeps across White Horse Hill and the silhouette of the figure stretches across the horizon, we are reminded that human history is not merely the sum of written records or monumental cities, but also of images etched into earth, signs left for generations, and mysteries that endure precisely because they resist full understanding. The Uffington White Horse continues to watch over the Vale of White Horse, an enduring enigma, inviting us to wonder what other messages, symbols, and marvels lie hidden in the landscape, waiting for those who look carefully enough to see. Flowing from the chalky hillside of the Uffington White Horse, where human hands left an enduring mark on the landscape in stylized abstraction, we now move to the heart of the Roman Empire, where artisans created small, enigmatic objects of bronze and stone that continue to puzzle historians and archaeologists alike. The Roman Dodecahedrons. Found scattered across Europe, from Britain to Hungary, these 12-sided hollow objects are uniformly geometric, each face a pentagon with a circular hole of varying diameter. They range in size from a few centimeters to over 20 centimeters across, and many feature small knobs at the vertices. At first glance, their precision and symmetry are striking, yet their purpose remains elusive. Thousands of years after they were made, there is still no definitive explanation for their function, and few contemporary references survive to illuminate their use. The craftsmanship is meticulous. Each dodecahedron is cast or carved with care, the holes drilled with precision, and the faces perfectly shaped to form the 12-sided polyhedron. The skill required to create these objects is considerable, suggesting that they were not mere toys or trinkets, but items of significance. Yet despite their quality, they are remarkably uniform across regions, hinting at either widespread distribution or shared cultural knowledge. How did artisans across such a vast empire come to produce similar objects, and for what purpose? Archaeologists have proposed numerous theories over the years. Some suggest they were measuring instruments used for calculating distances, angles, or even astronomical phenomena. Others propose practical functions, candlestick holders, glove molds, or tools for textile production. Yet, no archaeological context definitively supports any single explanation. Unlike coins or pottery, which are often found alongside other identifiable artifacts, dodecahedrons appear in isolation, unaccompanied by inscriptions or depictions in Roman texts. Could it be that their function was secretive, specialized, or ceremonial, known only to those who used them? The holes in each face are particularly intriguing. They vary in size from face to face on the same object, leading some to speculate that they served as gauges for measurements, possibly in weaving, metalworking, or even military applications. Others see symbolic meaning in their arrangement, proposing that the geometry itself had ritual or mystical significance. The 12-sided form is not arbitrary. It recurs in nature, mythology, and astronomy, representing cycles, completeness, and cosmic order in many cultures. Was the dodecahedron a reflection of such symbolic thought, a tangible representation of abstract ideas in a portable, manipulable object? Their geographic distribution raises further questions. The majority of Roman dodecahedrons have been found in northern Europe, particularly in the territories of Gaul, Germany, and Britain. Yet there is little evidence that they were common in the heartlands of the Roman Empire, such as Italy or Greece. Why would an object of such apparent importance be concentrated in the empire's periphery? Does this pattern suggest a regional use, a local innovation, or a cultural practice that did not extend to the Mediterranean core? The age of the dodecahedrons adds to their mystique. Most date from the 2nd to 4th centuries CE, a time of significant social and political change in the Roman world. Could the objects have been tools for a now lost profession, or markers of status within particular communities? Some have speculated that they were linked to religious or ceremonial practices, perhaps used in divination, ritual measurement, or symbolic representation. If so, what belief system or tradition did they serve, and why has so little evidence survived? Experimental archaeology offers partial insights, yet raises more questions than answers. Replicas of dodecahedrons have been used to test hypotheses about candle holders, knitting tools, and surveying devices. While some experiments demonstrate practical applications, none fully explains the uniformity, the variations in size, or the consistent use of bronze. The object's hollow interiors and precise perforations suggest that they were designed to be manipulated, to interact with their environment or with the hands of a skilled user, but the exact interactions remain speculative. Perhaps what is most compelling is the blend of sophistication and mystery. The dodecahedrons are small, unassuming in weight and scale, yet their geometric perfection, widespread distribution, and unexplained function elevate them beyond ordinary artifacts. They challenge assumptions about what ancient objects were for, reminding us that the Roman world, often viewed through the lens of monumental architecture, coins, and military artifacts, also produced items whose purpose is completely opaque to modern observers. In many ways, the Roman dodecahedrons echo other archaeological enigmas we have explored, from the crystal skulls to the Baalbek megaliths. They exemplify the intersection of skill, intention, and the unknown. They force us to reconsider what constitutes evidence, knowledge, and cultural memory. How many objects like this have vanished, their purposes lost, leaving only form as a whisper of human activity? And what can we learn about the people who made them by studying these geometric relics, carefully crafted yet frustratingly silent? As one holds a dodecahedron, or even contemplates its size and complexity, the mind is drawn to questions that refuse to be answered definitively. Was it a tool, a ritual object, a symbolic marker, or something else entirely? Did the same knowledge travel across Europe, connecting distant workshops and artisans, or was the design independently invented multiple times? And why, despite their craftsmanship and distribution, did no written record preserve their explanation? The Roman dodecahedrons remain a quiet testament to human ingenuity, subtle in scale yet profound in implication. They are reminders that even within one of history's most documented civilizations, mysteries endure, whispering across time. In their geometry and precision, they speak of hands that shaped metal, minds that conceived abstract forms, and a culture whose complexity we are only beginning to glimpse. Held between curiosity and awe, the dodecahedrons invite us to consider not only the skill of their makers, but the limits of our knowledge. They challenge the assumption that ancient objects must have obvious purposes, and compel us to imagine lost traditions, practices, and expertise. In their silent, symmetrical form, the dodecahedrons pose a simple yet profound question. What other secrets of human ingenuity remain hidden, waiting for eyes attentive enough to notice and minds patient enough to wonder? Flowing from the delicate geometry and enigmatic purpose of the Roman dodecahedrons, we now journey to the rugged hills of western India, where an extraordinary human achievement is carved not into earth or small objects, but into solid rock itself. The Temple of Kailasa at Ellora. Nestled in the cliffs of the Aurangabad district in Maharashtra, the temple emerges as if grown from the hillside, a monumental expression of devotion and artistry. From a distance, the temple complex presents a dramatic spectacle: towering columns, intricately carved facades, and a central shrine hewn from a single rock mass. Approaching it, one can see that the entire structure is carved downward, a monolithic marvel sculpted from the volcanic basalt of the Deccan Plateau. Courtyards, stairways, shrines, and elaborately detailed reliefs extend across multiple levels, all meticulously integrated into the natural contours of the hill. The sheer scale and precision defy imagination. How could ancient artisans achieve such complexity using only chisels and hammers, without lifting stones or scaffolding as in conventional construction? The Temple of Kailasa is part of the larger Ellora Caves, a UNESCO World Heritage Site encompassing Buddhist, Hindu, and Jain cave temples built over centuries. Kailasa, however, stands apart. Its construction is attributed to the Rashtrakuta dynasty around the 8th century CE, yet even the most detailed historical records leave questions unanswered. The temple was carved from the top downward, meaning artisans had to envision the entire structure before removing a single cubic meter of rock. One miscalculation, and entire sections could have been ruined. What kind of planning, measurement, and skill enabled such a feat in an era without modern surveying tools or engineering blueprints? Every surface of the temple tells a story. Sculpted reliefs depict scenes from Hindu epics, the Ramayana, Mahabharata, and stories of Lord Shiva, blending narrative, devotion, and artistry. Columns are adorned with complex patterns, deities, and mythological figures, each carved in deep relief with astonishing symmetry and detail. The precision is staggering. Walls, ceilings, and statues all align perfectly within a structure that spans over 30,000 tons of rock. Could such work have been accomplished in decades? Or was it the culmination of centuries of labor, possibly involving hundreds of artisans? The construction method remains one of the most compelling mysteries. Unlike freestanding temples, which rely on assembling stones, Kailasa was excavated from a single cliff face, a process demanding careful removal of rock from the top down. Ancient records offer little insight into the techniques employed. Did builders use a combination of chisels, hammers, and levers? Were there methods of surveying and planning that allowed for precise scaling from blueprint to monolith? The absence of contemporary documentation leaves us only with the stone itself, a silent testament to extraordinary craftsmanship. The temple's alignment, spatial organization, and integration into the natural landscape suggest a deep understanding of geometry, aesthetics, and possibly cosmology. The central shrine, for example, is positioned to dominate the complex visually and symbolically, while subsidiary shrines, courtyards, and sculptures guide movement and sight lines with remarkable intentionality. Was the temple designed purely for devotion, or does it encode knowledge, mathematical, astronomical, or symbolic, that we have yet to decode? Speculative interpretations have emerged over centuries. Some suggest that Kailasa reflects knowledge lost in time, techniques for cutting, measuring, and sculpting monolithic structures that surpass conventional expectations of 8th century engineering. Others focus on the symbolic and spiritual dimensions, proposing that the entire temple represents Mount Meru, the mythical axis of the universe in Hindu cosmology, carved into stone as a microcosm of celestial order. In this view, the construction itself becomes a ritual act, a translation of cosmic principles into enduring rock. Beyond its technical and symbolic feats, the temple prompts questions about labor and organization. Coordinating hundreds of artisans, carvers, and laborers over potentially decades, with precise coordination across multiple teams, would have required a level of project management and knowledge transfer that is astonishing for the era. How was knowledge communicated, maintained, and executed with such fidelity? And how much of this expertise was lost over the centuries, leaving only the stone as a record of human achievement? The Temple of Kailasa continues to awe modern observers. Its scale, precision, and artistry invite comparisons to other monumental constructions around the world, from Egyptian pyramids to the Baalbek Megaliths. Yet its method of creation is entirely unique. The temple is not built, it is revealed, carved from the living rock, a testament to vision, devotion, and technical mastery intertwined. And in this very uniqueness lies its mystery. How much of its creation was the product of genius, and how much was the culmination of knowledge and techniques now forgotten? Walking through the temple today, one is struck by the harmony of form and function. Columns rise seamlessly from floors carved into the cliff. Reliefs narrate epic tales across walls and ceilings, and courtyards open to vistas of the surrounding plateau. Every surface demonstrates care, precision, and foresight. Yet, despite millennia of study, the exact methods, timelines, and organization of construction remain conjecture. Each stone, each carving, seems to whisper secrets, patiently awaiting a mind capable of unraveling the full story. Could the temple of Kailasa, like the Uffington White Horse or the Roman Dodecahedrons, hold fragments of knowledge about human ingenuity and architectural capability that have been lost to time? Was it merely an extraordinary religious monument, or does it encode principles of design, mathematics, and cosmology that we have yet to understand? And perhaps most compellingly, How did a civilization conceive, plan, and execute such an enormous undertaking, leaving a monument that speaks silently but eloquently to all who behold it? As sunlight falls across the intricately carved terraces and the shadows deepen in the recessed reliefs, the Temple of Kailasa stands as a silent enigma. It challenges us to consider not only the skill of those who carved it, but the limits of our own understanding. It is a reminder that the past is full of extraordinary achievements, some of which transcend time, technology, and the written record, leaving us to marvel at what has been made and to wonder what else, still hidden, awaits discovery. Flowing from the monumental craftsmanship and enigmatic purpose of the Temple of Kailasa, where devotion and engineering merge in monolithic stone, we now turn our gaze to the ancient sands of Egypt, where a temple wall seems to defy the conventions of history and invites us into a realm of mystery. The temple of Seti I at Abydos, home to what has been popularly called the Abydos helicopter. Nestled in the arid landscape of Upper Egypt, the temple is a sprawling complex built during the reign of Pharaoh Seti I, around 1290 to 1279 BCE. Its walls are adorned with exquisite bas-reliefs, hieroglyphics, and depictions of deities and ceremonial processions, crafted with the precision and artistry characteristic of the New Kingdom. Walking along these stone corridors, one feels the weight of millennia, the echo of rituals, and the enduring presence of human creativity. Yet amid these familiar symbols of pharaonic culture lies an anomaly that has captured both scholarly curiosity and popular imagination. An engraved image that, to some modern eyes, resembles a helicopter, a submarine, or even an aircraft. The image appears on a ceiling panel, etched in the traditional relief style of the era. To the untrained observer, overlapping and eroded carvings seem to form the outlines of a modern machine. But the historical context complicates interpretation. The ceiling was created through a technique known as palimpsest, where older hieroglyphs were carved and later filled or modified, resulting in layers of overlapping reliefs. Over time, the plaster and stone erosion fused these layers, creating shapes that appear to suggest advanced technology. Could this be a coincidence of artistic technique, or does it hint at something more profound about ancient knowledge? Egyptologists emphasize that the image is a product of conventional hieroglyphic practice, a layering effect that occurred naturally as restorers or later carvers modified earlier inscriptions. Yet the resulting silhouette is undeniably striking. Elongated forms, a central fuselage-like body, and shapes reminiscent of rotors or wings. The mind instinctively seeks familiar patterns, interpreting abstract forms as recognizable machines, a phenomenon known as pareidolia. Yet even accounting for optical illusion, the precision of the overlapping carvings invites wonder. What intent, if any, lay behind these layers? Were ancient artists experimenting with symbolic forms that inadvertently resemble modern objects? The broader context of Abydos adds to the intrigue. The temple itself honors Osiris, god of the afterlife, and Seti I's mortuary cult, a complex tapestry of ritual, mythology, and power. The walls teem with scenes of divine interaction, pharaonic authority, and cosmological symbolism. Within this sacred space, the helicopter carving seems almost out of place, a modern interpretation imposed upon an ancient narrative. Could the original carvers have conceived abstract shapes that, millennia later, mirror forms we only now recognize through technology? Or does the layering of history itself produce images that speak across time in ways unintended but evocative? Scholars and enthusiasts alike have debated the image's meaning. Some fringe theories propose that it is evidence of ancient knowledge of flight or extraterrestrial influence. Mainstream archaeology, however, maintains that the so-called helicopter is a visual byproduct of overlapping hieroglyphs, an accidental creation, not evidence of advanced technology. The debate itself highlights a broader fascination with the human tendency to seek meaning in anomalies. Are we projecting contemporary expectations onto ancient art, or is there a deliberate genius in symbolic abstraction that transcends eras? The craftsmanship of Seti I's temple provides additional layers of awe. The hieroglyphs, scenes of rituals and depictions of gods, are carved with a meticulousness that reflects centuries of artistic tradition. Reliefs were often painted, lending depth, color, and life to otherwise static stone. The precision required for such carvings, considering the tools and materials available, underscores the skill and organization of ancient Egyptian artisans. The helicopter anomaly emerges from this same context, reminding us that extraordinary artistry can yield forms that challenge modern perception. Beyond the visual puzzle lies the philosophical dimension. The temple represents a civilization deeply attuned to symbolism, spirituality, and cosmic order. Every line, figure, and inscription served multiple purposes: religious, political, and mnemonic. Could the helicopter shape, whether intentional or accidental, reflect an abstract concept or coded knowledge lost to history? Or is it simply a coincidental byproduct of human creativity layered over centuries? Visitors to Abydos today experience a profound interplay of certainty and mystery. The temple of Seti I is undeniably real, tangible, and historically grounded, yet it also provokes questions that cannot be easily answered. The reliefs tell stories of gods, kings, and rituals, while simultaneously allowing for interpretations that seem to transcend time. In this space, history, art, and imagination converge, reminding us that even the most meticulously documented civilizations contain enigmas. The Abydos helicopter exemplifies the tension between perception and interpretation. It is at once a testament to human craftsmanship and a mirror for our curiosity, an object that invites inquiry, wonder, and speculation. Are we witnessing a coincidence of layered carvings, a trick of erosion, or a symbol whose meaning has been lost across millennia? Perhaps all three, intertwined in a way that allows the image to captivate both archaeologists and the wider public. As the desert sun casts long shadows across the stone walls, the temple seems to breathe with the presence of countless generations. The reliefs endure, silent yet expressive, speaking of power, devotion, and the persistence of human endeavor. Among these images, the helicopter invites us to pause, to reflect, and to recognize that even in the most studied civilizations, mysteries persist, enigmas that challenge our understanding, spark our imagination, and remind us that history is often stranger than we can fully comprehend. The Temple of Seti I, in all its precision and artistry, poses questions that remain unanswered. How much of ancient symbolism has been lost, altered, or misinterpreted? What knowledge or meaning might have been encoded within these carvings, and how many messages have survived only partially, waiting for interpretation across millennia? The temple stands as both a record and a riddle, urging us to look closely, think carefully, and wonder at the enduring mysteries of human creativity. Flowing from the enigmatic reliefs of Seti I's temple in Abydos, where layered carvings evoke both ancient ritual and modern curiosity, we now travel to the rolling savannas of southern Africa, where a different kind of monumental mystery rises from the landscape. The Zimbabwe ruins, commonly known as Great Zimbabwe. Nestled atop a series of granite hills in modern-day Zimbabwe, the ruins unfold like a city frozen in time. Massive stone walls curve and twist across the landscape, some rising more than 10 meters high, built without mortar yet fitted with extraordinary precision. The structures are made from local granite blocks, carefully shaped and stacked to create imposing enclosures, towers, and pathways. Walking among these walls, one is struck by their scale, the harmony of their construction, and the way the stones seem to grow organically from the hills themselves. There is an undeniable sense of order, sophistication, and permanence. Yet the city remains silent, its original purpose and the full story of its builders shrouded in mystery. Great Zimbabwe flourished between the 11th and 15th centuries CE, serving as the heart of a powerful trading kingdom. Archaeological evidence indicates that its inhabitants traded extensively with distant lands, from the Swahili coast to China, importing and exporting goods such as gold, ivory, and exotic ceramics. Yet, despite these connections and the city's apparent wealth, many questions remain. How was such a monumental city planned and constructed with such precision? What social, political, and technological systems enabled the organization of labor necessary to raise walls that continue to endure centuries later? The most iconic feature is the Great Enclosure, a circular complex with walls extending over 250 meters in length. The walls are built with carefully shaped granite blocks, assembled without mortar, their weight and arrangement providing remarkable stability. The curvature of the walls suggests advanced architectural understanding as they taper slightly toward the top to maintain structural integrity. Within the enclosures lie conical towers, some theorized to symbolize royal authority or spiritual power. But the purpose of these towers, like much of the site, remains unresolved. Were they defensive structures, symbols of political or religious hierarchy, or purely ceremonial? Artifacts uncovered within the ruins add both clarity and further mystery. Pottery, tools, jewelry, and iron implements reveal a sophisticated culture capable of artistry, metallurgy, and trade. Yet written records are absent. No inscriptions survive to explain who designed the city, how decisions were made, or what rituals may have taken place within its walls. In the absence of texts, scholars rely on material evidence, but even here, gaps remain. Why was such an elaborate urban center constructed in relative isolation, and what social or spiritual imperatives drove its creation? Speculative interpretations have often veered into controversial territory. Early European explorers, unable to reconcile the scale and craftsmanship with indigenous knowledge, sometimes dismissed Great Zimbabwe as the work of foreign civilizations. Modern archaeology, however, confirms that it was built entirely by local Bantu-speaking peoples, reflecting a rich and sophisticated indigenous culture. Yet the site still invites wonder. How did the inhabitants of the savannah, with tools available in the medieval period, achieve such precision in quarrying, shaping, and fitting granite blocks? How did they coordinate labor, knowledge, and resources to create a city whose walls, some over 5 centuries later, remain intact? The arrangement of the ruins also hints at possible cosmological or symbolic significance. Some scholars have noted alignments with cardinal directions, patterns in the layout of enclosures, and the prominence of hills and elevated platforms. Could these choices reflect spiritual or astronomical understanding, guiding ritual practice or asserting authority over space and sightlines? The relationship between architecture and landscape is unmistakable. The city seems designed not only for habitation and defense, but also for symbolic resonance, a physical expression of cultural and political identity. Trade and connectivity further complicate the story. Archaeologists have found Chinese porcelain, Persian faience, and Arab coins at Great Zimbabwe, evidence of a network extending thousands of miles. This global connection suggests not only economic sophistication, but also the ability to negotiate, transport, and integrate foreign materials into local contexts. How did such a seemingly remote city achieve and sustain these connections? And what social, political, or spiritual frameworks allowed for the management of such complex trade networks alongside monumental urban planning? the construction techniques themselves remain astonishing. Without mortar, the walls have endured for centuries, their stability achieved through careful shaping, placement, and understanding of balance. The builders demonstrated mastery over stone that rivals constructions elsewhere in the world, from the Megaliths of Carnac to the Sacsayhuamán Walls. Yet while the stones speak of ingenuity, they remain silent on intent. Were these enclosures primarily defensive, symbolic, or ceremonial? Could they have been multifunctional, serving as administrative centers, royal residences, or sites of ritual, layered with meaning understood only by the people of the time? Standing among the ruins today, the magnitude and sophistication of Great Zimbabwe inspire awe. The massive walls rise against the African sky, curving with a fluidity that seems almost organic. The conical towers punctuate the skyline, while terraces and enclosures guide movement through the city in ways that suggest both practicality and ceremony. It is a city built for people, politics, and ritual, yet it also remains a silent riddle. The hands that carved, lifted, and fitted these stones left no explanatory text, no codified blueprint, only the enduring imprint of human ingenuity. Could Great Zimbabwe, like the Abydos ceiling reliefs or the Temple of Kailasa, reflect a combination of technical mastery and cultural knowledge now partially lost to history? Was its construction driven purely by social and economic needs? Or did it encode spiritual, symbolic, or astronomical understanding that we have yet to decode? And how much of this ingenuity remains hidden in plain sight, waiting for future generations to piece together the stories embedded in stone? The Zimbabwe ruins endure as both a monument and a mystery. They remind us that human history is not simply the sum of written records or iconic monuments, but also of cities, walls, and spaces whose purposes and significance can elude even our most careful study. Each curve, each block, each elevated platform challenges our assumptions about the capabilities, knowledge, and vision of people long gone, inviting us to marvel at what they achieved and to wonder what other secrets of human civilization remain buried waiting for discovery. Flowing from the vast stone city of Great Zimbabwe, where massive walls curve across the African savanna and human ingenuity endures through millennia, we now journey northwest to the misty hills of Scotland, where a single, enigmatic stone has puzzled generations, the Cochno Stone. Hidden near the village of Saflieni in West Dunbartonshire, the Cochno Stone lies beneath a layer of earth and grass, a massive slab of gray sandstone measuring approximately 13 meters long and 8 meters wide. Its surface is etched with hundreds of shallow depressions, spirals, cup marks, and interconnected grooves, forming intricate patterns that cover almost every inch of the stone. Even after centuries of weathering and partial burial, the designs remain astonishingly complex, as if the stone itself were a canvas of some ancient coded language. Walking along its surface, one is struck by the sheer density and precision of the carvings. Some depressions are circular, others geometric, some interconnected, forming lines and shapes that seem to pulse with intention. Archaeologists date the Cochno Stone to the Bronze Age, roughly 3,000 to 4,000 years ago, making it a product of a society already skilled in agriculture, metallurgy, and ritual practice. But while its age can be estimated, its purpose remains profoundly unclear. Was the stone a ritual site, a celestial map, a territorial marker, or even a teaching tool? The patterns are too deliberate to be random, yet there is no definitive evidence to explain why so much effort was devoted to carving them so meticulously. Could the creators have been attempting to encode knowledge, spiritual practice, or astronomical observation directly into the earth? The carvings themselves are a mystery of scale and detail. Cup marks vary in depth and diameter, some large enough to hold small offerings, others tiny and almost imperceptible without close inspection. Spirals and labyrinthine motifs suggest symbolic or spiritual meaning, possibly linked to cosmology or local mythology. Some researchers have proposed that the arrangements mirror star maps, lunar cycles, or solstitial alignments, while others argue they may represent clan symbols, watercourses, or ritualistic paths of movement. Each interpretation opens a doorway into Bronze Age thought, but no single theory fully accounts for the complexity, uniformity, and density of the carvings. The Cochno Stone's discovery history adds to its intrigue. In 1887, the stone was first documented by archaeologist Reverend James Harvey. Its patterns sparked immediate interest and speculation, drawing both scholarly and popular attention. By the mid-20th century, to protect it from vandalism, the stone was deliberately reburied, hidden beneath soil and turf, a measure that preserved it from decay but limited detailed study. Modern technology, including 3D scanning and aerial imaging, has begun to reveal its full intricacy, yet even with these tools, the purpose of the carvings remains elusive. How did Bronze Age artisans conceptualize such a large and complex design without written language or aerial perspective? How did they maintain consistency across the stone's vast surface? Speculative interpretations abound. Some fringe theories suggest the Cochno Stone may be a prehistoric calendar, a device to track celestial cycles and agricultural seasons. Others propose it is a sacred site, a place where rituals and initiations took place, with the cup marks and spirals guiding participants through ceremonial pathways. More fantastical ideas liken the carvings to star maps of extraterrestrial origin or encoded messages from an advanced prehistoric civilization. Mainstream archaeology remains cautious, emphasizing the evidence of ritual use and symbolic significance, while acknowledging that its full meaning may forever remain beyond our comprehension. The stone's location is itself suggestive. Situated on a gently sloping hill, it overlooks surrounding valleys and watercourses, perhaps connecting it symbolically to the land. Could its position have held astronomical or territorial significance? Did its creators intend for it to be a fixed focal point for their community, a stone that communicated power, knowledge, or spirituality? The interplay between landscape, human perception, and carved form hints at a culture deeply attuned to its environment, capable of translating abstract concepts into tangible, enduring patterns. The physical act of carving the Cochno Stone also demands reflection. Sculpting hundreds of depressions, grooves, and intricate shapes into hard sandstone requires both labor and planning. The uniformity of some patterns suggests systematic design, perhaps dictated by cultural or ritual rules now lost to time. How did artisans conceptualize the overall layout? Did they follow symbolic templates, oral instructions, or visual intuition passed down through generations? The answers are obscured by the passage of millennia, leaving only the silent stone as a witness. The Cochno Stone resonates with a sense of human intention and mystery, much like other monuments we have explored, from the precise enclosures of Great Zimbabwe to the enigmatic ceiling reliefs of Abydos. Its carvings invite reflection on the nature of prehistoric knowledge, symbolic thought, and the desire to leave a lasting imprint upon the world. The patterns, though abstract, communicate purpose and deliberation, suggesting a culture capable of sophisticated thought, yet one whose message remains tantalizingly inaccessible to us. As one surveys the stone today, partially hidden beneath earth and vegetation, the complexity and beauty of the carvings are overwhelming. Spirals seem to spin across the surface, cup marks collect shadow and light, and grooves trace paths whose meaning may be lost forever. The Cochno Stone challenges modern assumptions about prehistoric societies, reminding us that complexity, creativity, and symbolic thinking are not bound by written language or monumental architecture alone. Could the Cochno Stone, like the Uffington White Horse or the Roman Dodecahedrons, contain knowledge or meaning that we are simply unequipped to decode. Was it a ceremonial object, a calendrical device, or a symbolic landscape of ritual, observation, and memory? And perhaps most compellingly, how many other stones, carvings, or artifacts lie hidden, awaiting discovery, holding fragments of human thought that have endured across millennia, silent yet eloquent in their mystery? The Cochno Stone endures as both artifact and enigma. Its surface invites study, contemplation, and wonder. Every groove, cupmark, and spiral hints at human ingenuity and the desire to communicate across time, while simultaneously resisting full understanding. In its quiet presence, the stone speaks to the persistence of curiosity, the limits of interpretation, and the enduring allure of mysteries that survive long after their creators have vanished from history. Flowing from the intricate cup and ring carvings of the Cochno Stone, where Bronze Age hands etched patterns whose meaning has been lost to time, we now travel south to the rugged landscapes of South Africa, where a single extraordinary impression in stone has ignited both wonder and debate. The giant footprint, located near the small town of Impaloozi in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. This enormous footprint is etched directly into sandstone, measuring over 1 meter in length, far larger than any human foot. Its contours are surprisingly well defined: a pronounced heel, deep arch, 5 distinct toes, and a rounded ball, all aligned with remarkable anatomical accuracy. The footprint is set on an exposed rock surface, seemingly pressed into the earth in a single, decisive impression. Walking alongside it, one cannot help but feel dwarfed, not just by its scale, but by the questions it raises. Who or what could have made this mark, and why does it remain embedded in stone for countless generations? Local lore and oral traditions add layers of intrigue. Among nearby communities, the footprint has long been associated with giants, beings of myth, power, and supernatural influence. Some tales speak of deities or ancestral spirits who left their mark upon the land, while others suggest cautionary narratives, warning against hubris or disrespect for sacred terrain. These stories, passed down for centuries, do not provide a scientific explanation, yet they underscore the cultural significance and mystery that have surrounded the footprint for generations. Geologists and archaeologists have studied the site, offering conventional explanations while leaving room for wonder. The footprint rests in sandstone, a sedimentary rock capable of preserving impressions under certain conditions. Some experts suggest that the shape may be the result of natural erosion, a phenomenon known as pseudo-trace formation, where wind, water, and sedimentary pressures create forms that resemble recognizable shapes. Yet the detail and proportional accuracy of the Impaloozi footprint defy easy dismissal. Could natural forces alone carve a heel, arch, and toes with such precision, all in a single contiguous impression? The age of the footprint remains difficult to determine. Unlike fossils or pottery, the stone itself does not carry carbon for dating, and sedimentary layers may have shifted over millennia. Some estimates propose it could be tens of thousands of years old, dating to a prehistoric epoch when early hominids and other large mammals roamed southern Africa. If so, how do we reconcile its scale with known human anatomy? The footprint's size far exceeds even the tallest humans in the fossil record, suggesting either exaggeration in perception, misidentification, or the possibility that it represents an unknown species, or perhaps an enigmatic aspect of ancient imagination rendered in stone. The footprint's existence raises deeper questions about human cognition, storytelling, and the interpretation of anomalies. For those who first discovered it, the impression may have seemed deliberately carved, a deliberate act of commemoration, ritual, or warning. Could it be a symbolic marker, intended to convey spiritual or cultural meaning, rather than a literal record of a giant being? The precision with which it mirrors human anatomy, heel, arch, toes, suggests intentionality, yet whether that intention belonged to nature, humans, or myth remains uncertain. Speculative theories abound, ranging from the plausible to the extraordinary. Some fringe ideas suggest that the footprint is evidence of prehistoric giants or advanced hominid species long lost to history. Others propose that it was created as part of ritualistic practice, a sacred imprint meant to mark territory or communicate power. Mainstream science tends to favor natural formation processes, erosion, or misinterpreted geological phenomena, yet the scale, clarity, and cultural significance continue to inspire speculation and debate. How do we separate human perception and imagination from the evidence itself, especially when the stone seems to defy the ordinary? The footprint also prompts reflection on humanity's fascination with the monumental. Across the world, from the massive enclosures of Great Zimbabwe to the monolithic carvings of Kailasa, humans have long been compelled to create, record, and mark their presence in ways that transcend ordinary scale. The Mpuluzi footprint, whether natural or man-made, aligns with this pattern, a striking feature that evokes awe, suggests narrative, and challenges conventional understanding. Its enormity forces a confrontation with the limits of human comprehension, asking us to consider scale, time, and intention in ways rarely required by everyday experience. Standing near the footprint today, one is struck by both its physicality and its mystery. Sunlight casts shadows into the grooves of the heel and toes, exaggerating their depth and realism. Wind rustles the surrounding grasses, as if whispering the passage of countless years. It is easy to imagine the footprint being made in a moment of immense force, whether by human hands, divine intervention, or the slow, persistent hand of geology. The mind oscillates between skepticism and wonder, aware that the truth may never be fully recoverable, yet compelled to continue exploring. Could the giant footprint of South Africa, like the Cochno Stone or the Abydos reliefs, encode knowledge, belief, or ritual now inaccessible to us? Was it a literal mark of a being, a symbolic imprint, or a geological quirk elevated to legend over time? And perhaps most compellingly, how many other traces of ancient thought, intention, or anomalous natural formation lie hidden, waiting to challenge our understanding of the past? The Mpuluzi footprint endures as a silent testament to mystery. Its presence evokes curiosity, wonder, and reflection, bridging myth and material reality, human perception and natural formation. Whether a record of ancient imagination, an unexplained natural imprint, or a relic of an unknown past, it reminds us that the world is filled with enigmas, shapes and marks that invite contemplation, urging us to ask questions even when answers remain elusive. In the shadow of this enormous impression, one cannot help but pause and wonder what other extraordinary mysteries of our planet still lie waiting, buried in stone, waiting for the keen eye and the patient mind to discover. Flowing from the enigmatic giant footprint of South Africa, a mark that challenges our understanding of scale, intention, and ancient perception, we now turn our attention northward to the tranquil waters of New Hampshire, where a mysterious artifact rests beneath the surface of Lake Winnipesaukee, the elusive Mystery Stone. The stone lies submerged in the clear, cold waters of the lake, its presence known to local fishermen and divers for decades. Roughly the size of a small boulder, its surface is etched with unusual depressions and grooves, forming patterns that resist easy classification. Unlike natural stones shaped by erosion, the markings on the Mystery Stone appear deliberate, as if someone, or something, had taken great care to carve them. The depressions vary in depth and width, some resembling cup marks, others linear channels, almost as if they were meant to trace paths or convey information. The stone's dark, water-polished surface gleams under sunlight, and when partially exposed, it seems to float between the worlds of nature and human design. Archaeologists have long debated its origin. Some suggest that the markings could be the result of glacial activity or water erosion, natural processes capable of creating depressions and channels in stone over thousands of years. Yet the patterns are unusually regular, with certain alignments that seem purposeful rather than random. Could it be an ancient tool, a ritual object, or a symbolic artifact created by pre-colonial inhabitants of the region? The local Abenaki people, who lived in and around the lake for centuries, have oral traditions rich with references to spirits, water guardians, and sacred objects. But no known stories explicitly describe a stone such as this. Still, the possibility that the mystery stone held spiritual or cultural significance cannot be dismissed. The stone first drew attention in the early 20th century, when divers and lake explorers reported observing the unusual markings during the summer months when water levels were lower. Attempts to remove it or study it in detail were limited by the depth and slipperiness of the lake bed, as well as the fragility of the stone itself. In the decades since, photographs and sketches have documented its features, yet the stone remains largely inaccessible, cloaked in the waters that conceal as much as they reveal. This inaccessibility only deepens the allure. Here is an artifact whose full details remain tantalizingly out of reach, preserved in its watery tomb. Speculative interpretations have emerged alongside scientific inquiry. Some enthusiasts propose that the grooves and depressions are symbolic maps, perhaps marking water routes, seasonal cycles, or sacred landscapes. Others suggest ritualistic purposes. Could the stone have served as an altar, a ceremonial focus, or even a storytelling device, where each groove held meaning for those who could read it? More fantastical theories posit contact with lost civilizations or advanced prehistoric knowledge, a theme familiar across many of the enigmatic sites we have explored, from the Cochno Stone in Scotland to Great Zimbabwe in southern Africa. Mainstream archaeology, however, remains cautious, emphasizing that natural formation cannot be ruled out, and the lack of corroborating artifacts makes definitive conclusions elusive. The stone's placement within Lake Winnipesaukee adds another layer of intrigue. The lake is vast, its waters stretching over 70 square kilometers, dotted with islands, peninsulas, and hidden coves. Why was this particular boulder located where it is? Was it moved there deliberately, placed in a precise location for ritual or symbolic reasons, or is its position entirely coincidental, the result of glacial movement and natural sedimentation over millennia? The surrounding environment hints at both human and natural narratives. Abundant wildlife, shifting water levels, and the remnants of ancient settlements along the shore all suggest a region rich in history, where objects such as the mystery stone could hold hidden meaning. The act of carving or marking a stone of this size, if indeed human, raises further questions. What tools would have been used? How long would it have taken to create the patterns? And what knowledge, cultural or spiritual, motivated such an effort? These questions resonate with those posed by other enigmatic objects. The giant footprint of South Africa, with its impossible scale, or the Cochno Stone, whose intricate designs still defy complete interpretation. In each case, we are confronted with artifacts that reveal extraordinary skill or imagination, while simultaneously withholding explanation. The mystery stone also invites reflection on perception and interpretation. Our modern eyes, trained to seek patterns and meaning, may see intention where none exists, or symbolism in what is purely natural. Yet even if the grooves were formed through geological processes, the stone's presence in human consciousness, the stories, the curiosity, the repeated observation imbues it with significance. It becomes a mirror, reflecting both the ancient environment and our contemporary desire to connect with the past. Standing at the lake's edge, Watching sunlight glint off the water and imagining the stone resting below, one is struck by a profound sense of continuity and enigma. The stone has endured centuries underwater, untouched yet observed, silent yet provocative. It challenges us to consider the interplay of human perception, natural forces, and historical memory. Is it a sacred object, a functional tool, a relic of unknown culture, or a geological coincidence? Perhaps it is all of these at once, or none, leaving only questions that ripple as unpredictably as the lake's surface. Could the Lake Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone, like the Cochno Stone or the Giant Footprint, encode lost knowledge, ritual practice, or symbolic meaning? Was it a marker of landscape, a ceremonial focus, or simply a stone whose unusual form captured human imagination? And, crucially, how many more such enigmas lie submerged in lakes, rivers, and remote terrain, waiting for patient eyes, careful study, and the curiosity to see what has been hidden for centuries? The stone rests quietly beneath the waves, a testament to time, nature, and mystery. It invites contemplation, inspires inquiry, and reminds us that even in the seemingly ordinary, beneath placid lake waters, along familiar shores, there may exist artifacts that defy explanation, whispering to those willing to look, question, and wonder at the hidden chapters of our shared past. Flowing from the waters of Lake Winnipesaukee, where a mysterious stone lies submerged, its purpose and origin shrouded in centuries of speculation, we now journey across continents and cultures to the rugged heights of eastern Turkey, where the giant statues of Mount Nemrut stand in silent testimony to ambition, devotion, and enigma. Perched atop a remote mountain plateau at nearly 2,100 meters above sea level, the site of Mount Nemrut is a commanding presence in the landscape. From a distance, the colossal heads of gods, kings, and mythic beings emerge from the mist, scattered among broken stone and tumbling terraces. The statues, some reaching over 8 meters in height, are carved from local limestone, their faces bearing expressions both serene and commanding. Time, weather, and seismic activity have toppled many of these giants, leaving their heads strewn across terraces, yet their gaze, directed outward across the horizon, still conveys an aura of authority and mystery. The site dates to the 1st century BCE, built under the reign of King Antiochus I of Commagene, a minor Hellenistic kingdom perched between the Roman and Parthian empires. Antiochus, blending Persian and Hellenistic traditions, sought to create a monument that celebrated both his divine lineage and his earthly power. The terraces and statues were part of a grand funerary complex, intended to honor both gods and king, merging the celestial and terrestrial into a single monumental vision. The precision of the carvings, the scale of construction, and the engineering required to place these statues atop a remote mountain all speak to extraordinary technical skill and ambition. Yet, as with so many ancient wonders, questions abound. Why were the statues oriented as they are? Some face east toward the rising sun, others west, as if in dialogue with celestial patterns or seasonal phenomena. Was this alignment purely symbolic, a cosmic reflection of authority and divinity, or did it serve practical ceremonial purposes for the rituals conducted on the terraces? Could the mountain itself, rising above the surrounding plains, have been chosen for its prominence, its connection to the heavens, or its visibility across distant territories? The statues themselves present layers of mystery. Each represents a combination of Greek, Persian, and local iconography. Lions, eagles, and gods are interspersed with Antiochus's own likeness, a visual assertion of divine ancestry and human sovereignty. Some scholars interpret the mixture as an attempt to unify cultures under a single political and spiritual ideology, a message carved in stone for both subjects and rivals. Yet the question remains, how did the people of the time perceive these colossal figures? Were they objects of worship, awe, intimidation, or perhaps all three at once? In addition to the statues, the site contains stelae, altars, and inscriptions, many in Greek and Aramaic, proclaiming Antiochus's devotion to the gods and his own divine heritage. These texts provide insight into the intentions behind the site, yet they leave room for speculation. The choice of location, the specific arrangement of figures, and the sheer scale of the undertaking suggest layers of meaning beyond the written word. Was Mount Nemrut intended as a beacon of eternal memory, a symbolic bridge between mortal and divine realms, or even as a cosmic observatory of sorts? The remote location amplifies the mystery. The terraces sit atop a mountain accessible only by steep, narrow paths, exposed to harsh winds and snow. Transporting massive limestone blocks, carving statues, and erecting them in this environment would have required meticulous planning, vast labor resources, and sophisticated understanding of logistics and engineering. How was it achieved without modern machinery? How did the builders manage stability, precision, and the transport of massive heads and torsos up the mountain? The technical questions underscore the ingenuity of the builders, while simultaneously inviting awe and speculation. Speculative theories have flourished around the site. Some propose that the site held astrological or calendrical significance, its alignment with celestial events, encoding knowledge of solstices, equinoxes, or planetary cycles. Others suggest esoteric or mystical purposes, that Antiochus intended the site as a spiritual gateway, a sacred landscape connecting the earthly kingdom with divine realms. More fringe interpretations have ventured into ideas of lost knowledge, Hellenistic esoterica, or secret teachings embedded within the arrangement of gods and animals. While mainstream archaeology favors a combination of political, religious, and dynastic motivations, the grandeur and ambiguity of Mount Nemrut naturally invite such imaginative interpretations. Standing among the broken statues today, the impact is both humbling and unsettling. Heads rest on terraces, gazing across valleys, their expressions frozen in time. The scale of ambition, the isolation of the location, and the blending of multiple cultural influences convey both authority and mystery. It is as if the mountain itself holds a secret, a story of power, devotion, and human ingenuity preserved in stone, yet partially obscured by time and weather. One can imagine the ceremonies, the processions, and the rituals that once filled these terraces, their echoes now carried by wind across centuries. Could Mount Nemrut, like the Cochno Stone, the giant footprint, or the stone carvings of Abydos, encode knowledge or symbolism now lost to us? Was Antiochus's vision purely dynastic, or did he intend something more, an eternal dialogue with the cosmos, a map of belief, or a monument to human ambition reaching toward the divine? And how much remains hidden in plain sight, waiting for scholars, explorers, and dreamers to decipher, as the mountain guards its silent testimony against the passage of time? The giant statues of Mount Nemrut endure as both monuments and mysteries. Their presence challenges our understanding of ancient ambition, artistry, and belief. They remind us that human civilizations, even in remote corners of the world, were capable of astonishing feats of vision, skill, and symbolic sophistication. And while much about them can be studied and explained, their full story, why these statues, why this mountain, and what ultimate message was intended, remains unresolved, inviting wonder, reflection, and curiosity across the centuries.